we go. Gotta remember to turn the desktop audio back up when the stream starts. While I ate a snack, I was watching some other people's prediction videos and stuff, and it got me excited. Yep, still not streaming at 1080p. Why won't? It's pretty frustrating. Can't figure it out. Hey! Baradari, how you been, man? What's going on? You gonna watch the Affliction stream? Pretty excited. Really wish I could figure out why my stream refuses to stream at 1080p. My stream, not their stream. Alright. I think I'm excited to see the new league. I think I'm actually more anxious to see the patch notes. So hopefully they still are doing the patch notes tonight as they've done the last couple leagues. A lot of people want Ultimatum. I don't think I ever did Ultimatum. Actually, I definitely don't think I did that league. I didn't do Sentinel, but I did the Sentinel event. It was pretty cool. I didn't go too deep in it because there was the 5x experience loss penalty, and it makes the people harder. So it was not smart to use all the time. So I stopped using that pretty quick. Three minutes. Let's see a new boss. New Uber boss. That'd be dope. Something you can't look up a guide immediately for. So I can rage on stream. What do we got already? We got the character select counter. So, whatever. Cool. Be able to split currency and trade. No idea why they took them this long to change that, but I mean, better late than never on that one. Got the new Divinaria Stagger card, which will probably be just as rare as like the Headhunter cards. Like a doctor, not a nurse. Right, just as rare as a doctor card. I think that's the only three things they really released, unless I'm missing something, someone tell me. They're probably going to nerf bow builds, namely Lightning Arrow, Sanctum. It's gonna get nerfed in the ground. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna see a grown man cry. Other than that, I don't know. League Mechanic had kind of a ritual feeling, but I don't think it's going to be like ritual at all. If Sanctum gets nerfed, I'm going to start ritual, even though it's not great. It's too fun. I'll do ritual and I'll do map farming, and then I'll just sell invitations in between the rituals. What sucks is if they nerf Sanctum into the ground. I don't know what I'm going to start. Because I was practicing starting SRS, going straight to Poison and starting Sanctum. But I don't know if I can do that now. Or like, I'll be able to do it, but I don't know if it'll be worth it if they destroy Sanctum. So we'll see. Alright, let's go.
Oh yeah, you gotta get swifty.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. Thanks for joining us for today's Path of Exile livestream. We have a packed show today, with announcements for Path of Exile 2, as well as the exclusive unveiling of Path of Exile Affliction, which launches on December 8th on PC and Mac, and on December 13th on console. Twitch drops are enabled on today's livestream, so make sure you follow the instructions below in order to claim your Huntsman wings.
And they are enabled.
We'll start with Path of Exile 2, where Jonathan will walk you through our latest announcements.
Some ugly ass wings,
Mark will
though.
then take you on a
I don't really
dive
care
into
about
the
those
new
wings
Path
that
of Exile
much.
Affliction Challenge League, which launches in 1 week. He'll cover the league mechanics, its rewards, some new content we're adding to the core Path of Exile experience, and some large metagame changes. I'll then show you our annual core supporter packs, and we'll head into our live Q&A session where Ziggy D will ask us your questions
Hey,
in
Kuder.
Twitch chat. After the live
Free
stream, we'll
MTX,
drop
very
the full
true,
patch
very
notes.
true.
I'd like to hand over to Jonathan Rogers, Game Director of Path of Exile 2.
Hey guys, it's been a few months since we introduced you to the Druid in Path of Exile 2. but one of the things that we're really focusing on now is how varied each of the classes feels to play. The monk darts around quickly from enemy to enemy.
I hope that they talk
building
about
and
more of the
unleashing
mechanics of the
combos.
druid.
If he doesn't stay in combat, he loses momentum and has to build it up again.
It just looks so slow. I know this
Warrior,
is
on the
early
other
game,
hand, is
but
like a slow but unstoppable freight train. A warrior commits to big attacks and relies on stunning his enemies to stay safe in the thick of combat. When an opening presents itself, a warrior can use even larger attacks to demolish his enemies. The Huntress seamlessly moves from melee to ranged combat and back. The true damage potential of the Huntress is only unlocked when you learn to combine ranged and melee abilities together.
the Huntress looks pretty dope. Corp, what's up, man?
And then there are the
Long time no talk.
spellcasters. The sorceress is a pure caster who much prefers to stay
Yeah,
at range and
that's-
drop powerful spells on her foes.
That's kind of
If she
how I
finds
feel
herself
too.
surrounded by enemies,
They were like,
she would
this
rather
is
use
this
an
is
ability
turning
to
into
escape
something
than to
so
take
much
them on
different than
directly.
POE. We really should not get rid of POE. Because that's putting all your eggs in a slower game,
The
and that's
druid
just
is
not
also
a good idea.
spellcaster, but unlike the sorceress, he uses his spells as a means to support his melee abilities.
But we'll see. We still got a
By
year.
melee abilities, we mean he can turn into a giant animal and rip his enemies to pieces.
Yeah, no Quicksilver. I forgot about that.
Each of these classes feels extremely different to play, but we want to go even further. It's time to check out the mercenary.
There's not a job out there.
Since
I
they're
won't
doing the
take, so
reservation
long as the pay's
on a
good
separate
and
bar,
the
maybe
crossbow
running
keeps
haste on
moving.
everything is going to be the meta. Because I'm assuming they'll have some kind of haste aura. So that'll help a little, maybe. Not much, though. Good douche.
I'll take 'em all down, one bolt at a time.
When thinking about each new class, we really try to think about how we can make combat feel different from all the others. For the mercenary, that difference is the crossbow. A crossbow is fundamentally different than a regular bow because it fires instantly instead of needing to be drawn back. This means that you need immediate feedback.
He said that
Clicking
as
the
you can
fire
see him
button should make the
drawing it
character
back
shoot
to
instantly,
reload
just
it.
like in a shooter. As soon as we experienced that, we realized that there are a lot of design lessons to learn from shooters, and so we fully embraced them. In Path of Exile 2, we have crossbows that work like sniper rifles, shotguns, and assault
And machine
rifles.
guns.
But in order to really get shooter-like gameplay, we wanted to go further. In Path of Exile 2, we now support WASD movement. You can now walk around in any direction independent of aiming.
Oh, cool.
In fact, if this is your preferred method of gameplay, you can use it on any class, regardless of what weapon type you're using. You can change between click to move or WASD.
They're going full
at
twin
any
sticks.
time.
You're right. Good call.
You can only hold 2 crossbows at a time, but Path of Exile 2 is all about interesting combinations of abilities, and this is where ammo skills come in. This is a burst shot crossbow, and right now I have armor-piercing ammo equipped, which makes it very effective when facing
It's
a
gonna go
group
on the
of
quiver
enemies,
slot,
since it pierces
obviously.
right through them.
That's what I figured they'd do.
But there are other ammos too. For a bigger single target, it might be a good idea to switch to incendiary. The more
It's Resident
projectiles hit the
Evil.
target, the stronger the ignite, so you'll want to get up nice, close and personal with this one. If you have a bunch of targets running at you, you might want to slow them down. In this case, you could switch to permafrost burst shot. Shooting a bunch of smaller enemies at range will chill them, and potentially even freeze them in place. Once you have some frozen enemies though, you can switch back to armor piercing. Shooting a frozen enemy with armor piercing burst shot will explode the ice, doing a huge amount of damage to all nearby enemies.
Shut up.
Another feature crossbows have is attachments. This is a grenade launcher. As you can see, when I equip it, it appears on the underside of the crossbow. These attachments are just like skill gems, so you effectively get extra skill slots, and you can augment these with support gems, just like regular skills.
Fire in the hole!
Al,
These
how's it
grenades
going,
take a
man? How you
while to
been?
explode, so it's a good idea to pair them with some kind of crowd control, like permafrost burst shot.
This really does
We
make it
have
look
other
like
grenades too,
just
though.
a completely
This
different
attachment
shooter
is a
game.
flash grenade.
It's
It
really
does
kind
barely
of
any
off-putting.
damage, but it does a huge amount of stun. It can be a great
Oh, he
opener
had
before
gem
you run into
sockets in that
combat.
ammo.
Surprise!
Now, here's another attachment, an oil grenade. Firing one of these grenades coats the ground and nearby enemies in oil. Oil
Oh, that's
slows
shitty,
enemies
man.
down, so it's another useful
You having
crowd
vertigo
control
problems?
mechanic. Now, another thing that oil can do is be set on fire. Any burning enemy or explosion will ignite the oil, causing extra burning damage.
See, none of this is
One
groundbreaking,
of the
but
problems
for it
with
to
burst
be
shot
in
crossbows is that
POE,
each pellet
it's
doesn't do
like
much damage individually.
kinda
This
crazy.
means that if enemies have armor, then it will be very effective preventing that damage. But thankfully, you can equip an additional crossbow in your second weapon set to
gotcha,
deal
man.
with the weaknesses of your primary weapon. This is a rapid shot crossbow. Rapid shot is great for closing on enemies because you can shoot while running. In Path of Exile 2, we now have the ability to allow you to use some skills while moving. Being able
Dope.
to create skills like this opens up a lot of new design space and allows us to really increase the pace of combat.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I'd treat it for sure.
The armor-piercing version of Rapid Shot slowly erodes a monster's armor. Once the armor is fully broken, you can easily switch back to Burst Shot to deal much more damage. Being able to run while shooting with Rapid Shot is also great for when you want to perform a fighting retreat.
Reload!
Using permafrost ammo with Rapid Shot is also useful if you need to retreat. When you shoot the ground, it creates ice crystals. If you draw monsters back over these crystals, they explode, chilling the monsters. It's great if you want to set up a safe zone before pulling the next pack. Slowing enemies down can come in handy if you want to use the incendiary version of Rapid Shot. Using this skill requires that you charge up a little bit.
So
before it
that's kind of what
fires.
I'm thinking too.
But as it continues to heat up, it will do more and more
But
damage.
we'll see. I mean, I'll be making
It has
content
a really
for both,
large
so I'll
clip
probably
size,
both
so you can
quite
just
a
keep
bit.
firing and firing with it. But the other really useful feature is that when the crossbow is heated up, it adds extra fire damage to any grenade that you launch.
Ah, that's kind of cool. It's got an overheat mechanic.
Now I've been using explosive grenades here, but it will work equally as well with flash or oil grenades too. If you use it with
EDC
oil
buff,
grenades,
yeah,
the oil will
for
catch
sure.
fire immediately.
What's OS RuneScape?
Another crossbow type that you can find is Power Shot. This one works just like a classic sniper rifle. Use it with armor-piercing ammo and it will penetrate armor on targets. So it's a good idea to use
Oh,
with
let's
something
go.
really tough.
That makes sense.
Back down or die!
Scissorin in his videos talking about how he wants to see an EDC buff too.
Now this
I
skill
obviously
has
haven't
another
played it or
interesting
tried it
interaction
ever,
with
though.
armor break. If an enemy has its armor broken, then your Power Shot hits a weak spot and does a huge amount of single target damage, with a bunch of extra stun for good measure.
Alright, I mean, this is cool. Can we see something else?
Bullseye!
Now, the incendiary version of Power Shot is more like a rocket launcher. It does a big explosive blast at a distance.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it does chaos damage, right? And chaos damage is fucking terrible right now.
One of the really useful features of this version is that you can explode any grenades that happen to be on the ground. This combo also works really well with Incendiary Rapid Shot. I'm going to charge up the heat on my crossbow, shoot out a bunch of grenades, and then start the fireworks with a power shot. The ice version of Power Shot creates frost walls at a distance. This is great for crowd controlling monsters in tight passages.
Gotcha.
The wall segments have other uses too. If they get destroyed by monsters, then they will explode, doing a small amount of damage.
Rock him in!
What's weird about PoE 2
Now,
is I
remember
guess
that
a
burst
large
shot combo
majority
with
of the
frozen enemies we
developers
did earlier?
didn't even play
That works with
PoE
ice
1.
walls too. Let's put burst shot back on.
So a lot of times they have to ask people like, hey, you
Now I
did
can fill up
this?
this area
Really?
with ice
And
walls
it's like, okay, how do
and
we
shoot
do
them
something
with
like that?
armor-piercing burst shot for a huge amount of damage. Alright, it's time to face the boss for this area. Let's see how we fare against her with all the skills I've shown you so far.
That'd be funny if he dies and they just go to the next segment in the video. And he's dead. Anyways, our next character we're going to talk about. Ooh, that's a good damage. The machine gun attack does literally nothing. He might as well just save up for that combo again.
By the gods!
Yeah.
Rapid fire! Eat your fill!
Oh, oh. You know he's not going to die, but I still kind of want to see it.
Eat this! Piercing shot!
Use a health potion. Why isn't he using a health potion? Cocky. I don't know why he just didn't do that a handful of times.
In this godforsaken city.
And that's the Mercenary. It feels totally different than anything we've made before, and shows you the range of what's possible in Path of Exile 2. We're going to be showing off a lot more about Path of Exile 2 as we approach its beta, but in the meantime, we've got a Path of Exile 1 expansion coming out next week.
All right,
I'm
here
going to
we
hand over
go.
to Mark, also known as Neon, to show
Yep.
you what's in store
Right
for
now,
POE
actually,
1.
Ab.
Thanks, Jonathan. Well, let's just go ahead and get straight on into it. Here's the trailer for Path of Exile Affliction.
Something moves in the mists.
Oh god, it's a delirium thing.
Something sinister. Thorn. Rot. Plague. And claw. The affliction spreads. It hungers for more. Tread lightly in the wildwood, which shifts.
Oh, the wildwood
and
is the
fights.
area.
Accept our help.
Oh, it's an item kit takes
the
you out of the...
ancient power of the Asmiri. Beware the spirits that yearn for freedom. And the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
They are doing another mechanic that takes you out of the map. I'm surprised. It's got some sense of tree. 100 plus transfigured gems? What do those do?
Ready yourself.
Oh wow, they did bring back ultimatum. Wow. There's a lot of people that are going to be so excited. Wow. I never played Ultimatum.
In the Affliction,
But I assume I
you
should
will
be hype
encounter
about
sacred
that.
wisps, which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood.
Yeah, so it is a thing that takes you out of the map.
A vile affliction has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power. But be warned, the darkness is full of cursed monsters that emerge to kill you.
So it's got kind of a delve feel to it.
As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the darkness.
It's even darker delve.
The Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about its affliction. Follow the trails of wisps by collecting them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New characters to find, shrines, boss battles, and all kinds of new encounters are lurking in the forest just waiting for you to discover them. There are many rewards to earn for those brave enough to seek them.
Tell us how we get loot from it.
When the sacred wisps run out of energy, they will return you back to where you came from. Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast. These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and
badass
inhabit
cleaver.
randomly chosen monsters in the area, increasing their power
Thick
and also
boy.
their rewards. The different types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will inhabit a single monster, making the fight even harder and even more rewarding. If this happens to a boss, you could be in for a tough fight, but if you can overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain. Primal wisps grant
And
an
if you
item
can't,
rating
you gotta
bonus
run
to
through the
inhabited
entire
monsters.
fucking area again.
Wild wisps grant an item quantity bonus, and vivid wisps cause them to drop currency items. If a
Dope.
monster gets all three types, they'll drop more items of a higher rarity and a lot of currency. While exploring the Wildwood, you might find some of the last few Asmeri wanderers who have managed to survive in the forest
Yeah,
since it was cursed.
you're right. That's kind of a sentinel thing,
Each
huh?
of them have different survival specializations.
Except you don't get to choose. It sounds
and
like
they
it
are
just
willing to
happens.
teach you if you agree to help them defeat the source of the affliction, the King in the Mists.
Yeah, seeing the
Choose which
divine
of the
orb drop
Asmeri that
without
you'll
a
complete
loot
quests
filter
for
was
to unlock
fucking
one of 3
awkward
new
as hell.
ascendancy classes, which you can have in addition to your regular ascendancy class. Up to 8 points for these classes are unlocked as you complete more
feeling
quests
it,
for
dude.
the Asmeri you are training under. The Warden of Eves can teach you to become a Warden of the Magi, a powerful class that takes advantage of wilderness knowledge. A Warden of the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful effects.
Oh shit! So it doesn't
you can
just
equip
work in the
tinctures your
area?
flask slots and toggle them on and off at will.
Wait, what did that
You
say?
can only have one enabled at a time.
We're gonna have to
but the
rewatch
effects
this
are
and
quite
pause shit.
conditional, so you may want to have more than one equipped and swap between them during combat. For
Rare
example,
monsters do
equip
something.
the Ironwood Tincture to gain the benefit of always stunning enemies on full life.
What? Always
Tinctures
stunning
can
enemies
also
on
get
full
random
life?
mobs. This one in particular adds stacks of wither to targets on full life and steals frenzy charges on hit, which makes it great as an initiator. When you are fighting rare monsters or finishing off tough bosses, you will want to swap to the Oak Branch Tincture, which grants Culling Strike, increased damage against enemies on low life, and has a chance to steal a mod from rare enemies you kill.
It's got a fucking
You can buy more
headhunter?
tinctures from the
What?
Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find her in the forest, so keep an eye out for her. As a Warden of the Magi
Holy
gains more
shit.
ascendancy points, they gain access to more skills that let them further specialize in tinctures. For example, Nature's Concoction allows you to invest in having your tinctures enhance your flasks. This ascendancy skill makes it important to think about which slots your tinctures are placed in, and what flasks they are adjacent to. You'll have better uptime on those flasks and they'll be stronger as a result. But there are plenty more skills to choose even if you don't want to engage with tinctures. For example, another new ability to unlock is Bark Skin.
Boxkin.
It's a reservation skill that causes bark to grow all over your body, increasing armor. As you take damage,
Okay.
the bark falls off, increasing your evasion.
Kind of cool.
Over time, the bark will grow back, removing the evasion bonus but increasing your armor again. The Breaker of Oaths can teach you to become a Warlock of the Mists, an ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts of the Izmiri. One powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous. This skill lets you see what type a monster is under its life bar, whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct, or humanoid. Consuming
Okay.
a corpse with this skill gives a buff to damage against that type of monster, and reduces damage taken by it. You can only have one type active at a time, so it's a good idea to choose wisely for the area
Why'd
that
you
you
say
are
that?
in. Some bosses, like the Maven, are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses that you have access to. But don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for corpses that you can place on the ground wherever you are.
Ah. What's the damage buff?
Buy an eldritch corpse and
Cast
you'll be
lightning
able to
beam?
get the bonus while
Cannot-
fighting
cannot
eldritch
inflict
entities
shock.
like the Maven. You may notice that most of the corpses he
Causes
sells are not
bleeding.
monsters you normally encounter.
Oh shit, what was that first one? Cast
You might
Hatred,
want to
Fire
try
Sparking.
turning some of these corpses into specters, to take advantage of some of the unique abilities that these monsters have.
Oh, they do it. Okay. I thought you did that when you attacked. I was like, that's... Oh, that was sick.
The Warlock of the Mists gets access to many other abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick from. One of these curses targets your minions, giving them life degen and making them explode for massive damage when they are near death.
I mean, we already have that. It's called...
One of them prevents enemies from dealing
We have a
damage for
passive
the
tree
latter
skill that
portion of
does
its
that, but-
duration, which is quite powerful against bosses. This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether or not you should increase curse duration or reduce it. The final curse is a mark that causes enemy phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with
Someone
on-hit and on-kill
phantasm
trigger
builds?
effects, for example. The Primal Huntress can teach you to become a Wildwood Primalist. Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress lets you customize your tree.
What's
You
your
do this with
customized
charms that you can
tree?
buy from the Primal Huntress for Vivid Wisps. Charms have randomly
What's
generated
on a
mods
kill?
which give stats from regular ascendancy classes, allowing you to create your own hybrid ascendancy class.
Oh my god.
Charms are magic items that are aligned with
Oh
different
my
attributes.
god.
So for example, this Ursine charm is strength aligned and has gotten the melee hits have a chance to fortify stat from the champion, and the ability to stop your movement speed going below base from the Juggernaut. This interline Corvine charm lets you get the stat that makes your consecrated ground effects linger from the Inquisitor, and the effect that makes cursed
Holy
enemies
shit.
explode from the Occultist. Some of the combination of mods that you might find for sale on charms can be extremely powerful, so keep a lookout for the Primal Huntress's shop even if you are not playing as a Primalist. As a Primalist, you also get access to a few other interesting abilities.
There's gonna be nutso builds this
Use
league.
war cries next to corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item.
Oh shit, they put in item
can provide
find.
chests
They put
too.
in barb item find.
The Primalist also gets access to a small extra backpack, just in case you find yourself needing to cart more items to town during your map runs. If you are unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to
We're
find
gonna have to
a really
watch
great
through this
item
shit
for
again.
another one of the classes,
There's
you
too
are
much
able
shit.
to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Izmiri Wanderers. Just remember that you will have to do their quests in order to gain the ascendancy points for that class. These quests will lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Izmiri: finding the King in the Mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all. There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes to master in the Affliction League.
Oh, I know. There will
Now
be
that we've
literal
covered what's in
groups
the
of
league,
people just
let's
looking
talk
for
about
an
some of the
item finder
changes
to
you can
follow them
expect
around
to the core
and just
game
pop
in
everything.
3.3.
It's gonna be just like
For a
Diablo.
start, Ultimatum is finally going core.
Oh
When talking
wow.
to players at
It's going
XCOM, it
core
was the
too.
number one feature that people requested. When playing through in-game maps, you may sometimes encounter the Trial Master, who offers you a choice to undertake a deadly Val trial in exchange for great rewards. If you defeat the trial, he offers to go double or nothing with you. Do you take the risk and go for
Oh,
an even
shit.
better reward?
That's
or do you
dope.
take the winnings you have already earned off the table and go home? We've done a full rebalance of Ultimatum and have added many new mods and rewards,
So that's what Ultimatum is. Alright.
including both new
Well, again,
and
I'm full on
reworked
board.
mechanics.
That sounds awesome.
The base number of rounds for an Ultimatum trial is now always 10, with a chance to spawn the Trial Master boss fight on the 10th round, if you are able to make it that far. As part of 3.23, we have also removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from Metamorph have
They
now
got
been
rid of
moved to be rewards
Metamorph.
for Ultimatum.
So they're
We've
putting that
also
on the
added a new
tree.
Val-themed Catalyst that works on corrupted items. As is normal for most content that gets added to endgame, we have introduced new Ultimatum passive skills to the Atlas tree. One great example is the Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes Ultimatums last 3 extra rounds.
I
You
haven't,
cannot
but that's
choose the
funny. Corp got
modifiers,
banned for it.
and it prevents the final Trial Master boss fight from spawning.
I
The
hated
level
meta,
of
but
challenge
yeah,
becomes
some people
extreme
liked
during
it,
the
so I
last
feel
3
your pain.
rounds, and not being able to choose the modifiers makes it even harder. But the rewards are insane, and for those with very high-end characters, it might be a bet worth making. There are lots of other Atlas passive skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely.
Oh.
Now, it's time to talk about one of the largest metagame changes we've ever made.
Uh-oh.
There were 3 systems in Path of Exile that were all trying to subtly modify the behavior of skills.
They're
These
changing
were
the
alternate quality gems,
trials.
Labyrinth Helmet enchants, and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called Transfigured Gems that allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some.
Transfigured gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions.
Yeah, I'll peep it later.
We have added a huge number of these with interesting variations that drastically change how existing skills play. For example, Frostbomb of Instability. It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes the role of Frostbomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill.
Wow.
Another example is Detonate Dead of Scavenging. You can't use it on corpses that were created by Desecrate or
Yeah,
Unearth,
Andrew, this is next
but in
season.
exchange,
This
it
is
does
this is
whole
a
lot
week
more
from now.
damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage. Raise Zombie of Falling. Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from midair. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage where they land. While this sounds like a physical damage version of Firestorm, you should consider that it scales with minion damage and also triggers on-death minion effects. Blight of Contagion. This
Oh,
version of Blight is now spread by
Contagion.
so you can use it as part of your Essence Drain build. We have a
Oh,
huge number of these. Transfigure
that might be it,
Firestorm into
Corp.
Firestorm with
How
Meteors,
good that is, we'll
Transfigure Blade
see.
Trap into Blade Trap of Great Swords, Transfigure Barrage into Barrage of Volley Fire, and so on. There is a lot to experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with. But how do you get Transfigured Gems? The Divine Font at the end of the Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new ways.
Wow.
One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 Transfigured Gems. But that isn't all the Divine Font can do. It has a lot of other gem crafting options you can use. For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for 1 or more treasure keys to open Azara's chests, and you can even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten. These
What?
are just some of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable of.
Well, the
In
prices
order
that
to
are gonna
replace the
fucking
rewards
tank.
and heists that previously gave alternate quality gems, we have done a rebalance of the rewards of heist as well.
Maurice, yeah.
Experimented base types
I
have been
took Friday
rebalanced.
off,
New replica
so I'll
units
have
have been
all
added
weekend
and old
and
ones
Friday.
changed, and we have increased the amount of currency from display cases as well. On top of this, we have
Nice.
gone through and buffed the quality stats on most damage dealing skills. In
They
most
buffed
cases,
the
they will be
quality
significantly more powerful
of
than
Tornado
before,
Shot?
and also more interesting.
Why?
Overall,
Why?
this is one of the largest metagame shifts that we've ever
Oh wow,
done.
Rolling Magma
There are
does look
so
cooler
many
that way
crazy
though.
new skill combinations to plan around, so we expect to see some really interesting new builds. Next up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk about the new supporter packs.
Oh, is that one of them? XP from the gem to
At
yourself?
this point, we'd usually talk about the League supporter packs. We're doing things a bit differently.
I
this
thought it
year.
was just giving them more
Rather than
XP.
releasing League supporter packs today and then our annual core packs 2 weeks later.
I know, and
we've
I think they're
combined it all
doing
together
patch
into a
notes tonight,
strong
which I
set of core
hope
supporter
so.
packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction next week. The series contains 5 packs, each with
A
its full value of
surfboard?
points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. The higher packs contain physical merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs at release next week, but in the meantime, here's a sneak peek of some of their exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. These packs will be available for purchase when Path of Exile Affliction launches on the 8th of December.
Oh.
Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
Yeah, considering how much they crushed 5 ways, I have a feeling they're not in the mood to make something super strong, so
We're just about
it
to
probably
start
isn't
Q&A
enough
with Ziggy
experience
Team.
to even matter.
Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full patch notes. With the release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Affliction's release.
Fuck, I was
Keep an eye
talking.
on the news.
Sorry,
release
did they say
weekend,
patch
we
notes
expect
tonight?
to launch the new mystery box and this season's Kyrix Vault Pass. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments.
Shit, did they
We're
say
looking
patch notes
forward to
tonight?
exploring
Did anyone
the
catch
Viridian
that?
Wildwood with you next week. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Damn it. Sorry, I was talking. I think they said they are coming up today. I'll give it a minute for the VOD to go, and then I'll go play it and listen what it said about the patch notes. Or we can do it now. Hopefully it caught up enough. What's this? Yeah. Hasn't caught up yet enough.
G'day, Ziggy D here, folks. Exiles, welcome for a giant jam-packed Q&A after a huge
Legit,
session.
before this started, I was like,
Chris,
fuck, I hope this doesn't
Jonathan,
suck, so,
and
because I'm going to be
Mark.
streaming and I have to try
Very
and get
impressive
excited
one
about
this time
stupid,
around,
like,
just Chris.
shit, even if I'm
Welcome,
not that
folks.
excited, I have to get a little excited.
very much.
Like, I can't be like,
Cheers.
this fucking sucks.
Excellent, folks. We're
But
gonna
now I'm
be
like
moving
losing my
through
mind.
things in
Everything
rough
was
order
fucking
that we
crazy.
saw things today during the reveal, so starting with Path of Exile 2.
And Ultimatum looks awesome.
New Path of Exile
I'm glad I didn't play it the first
features, so
time,
get those questions in.
because it looks awesome, and now I'm going in fresh. I got
Those
2 new
in
league
each of those
mechanics.
various sections.
and 1
So, but
league.
first, let's talk about
I'm
that new
fucking
movement
amped.
scheme that was revealed with the new mercenary class. So we have the new WASD movement. And does this alternate control scheme work with other classes and builds, or is it mainly intended for like this shooter mercenary style?
So when we put it in, I was totally thinking that it was going to be something that you'd want to use with ranged characters way more.
True.
But actually, when I tried out some melee stuff, I was pretty sold on it, actually. It was better than I was expecting. There's still a few tweaks to do to make that perfect internally, but like, yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I think I'm probably I think I'm going to be playing that way myself, actually, even though I was a bit of a skeptic at first of WASD for melee. I think it is good, but we want to make sure that everyone understands that you can change from one to the other whenever you want.
We got a year.
It's,
Nobody
one of
cares.
those
Talk
things
about
that,
this
you know,
league.
Some people may prefer it, some people may not. But yeah, I'm really.
I know you
enjoying
wanna talk about it, but it's so far off.
WASD, rather, feels pretty good to me.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest. Like, I've, die-hard action RPG, Diablo 2 era kind of guy myself. But for some reason, the WASD stuff just feels really natural to play. I guess it's, background in Crimson Land and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That first moment you use it, it's a little bit jarring because W is now not a skill. But once you can get beyond that, it is like very, very fun to play.
It is actually funny going I went loaded up the POE 1 client again recently, and like I was immediately pressing WASD, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know?
Keep doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also keep trying to dodge roll as well.
Yeah, so yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, thanks for hanging out,
I
Al.
was going to ask it then, can WASD movement
If patch notes are out later, I'll be streaming again to go over those, so if you're on, say what's
it's
up.
probably going to be pretty hard to add it to POE 1, and the reason would be because the number of animations you need to support like arbitrary directional movement like that is really high, and the rigs in POE 1 are so old that it would be really, really difficult to add. So I think it's probably like quite unlikely. And just in general, the animation stuff that we're doing in POE 2, like, it's just a different level. So it was like okay, I'm not going to say easy, but it was
Alrighty.
easier to add it in POE 2 than it would have been in POE 1 by far. So yeah, for now I'd say it's going to be POE 2 only.
How have you found hotkey usage and things like that while moving around with WSD movement?
So basically, one thing it does do is so it's definitely a thing.
One
but
thing it does do, it takes
personally what
3
I
of your
found is
fucking
you've
fingers off
effectively
the
got
other
left click
buttons.
freed up to put a skill on. So you've kind of got like you can have like sort of 3 major skills on mouse, and then having other stuff on the keyboard, and it works pretty well for me because the stuff that I put on the keyboard at least tends to be the sort of more rarely used stuff. They're still like commonly used, but still a bit rarer, and so it wasn't too bad. I found it okay. It is a concern for sure. Like I said,
the deluxe edition is going to come with one of these.
There might be a few builds
with all the buttons on the side.
a bit harder to do that way, but you can always use the other control scheme if you want. But it's working really well.
You get a POE MMO mouse.
And how well does this
shaped like a chaos sword? Terribly ergodynamic, but doesn't matter.
It is. So we have also implemented so that the right stick you can use to aim which direction that you're going in on controller, and it does work well there. There's like a bunch of other controller stuff that we've kind of been fiddling around with, trying to get that better. It definitely does help in that direction as well. Plus, it just kind of makes movement. Like there's actually stuff even with click to move that we can use. Like we can utilize the fact that we've got the ability for the character to face a different way than they're walking. That actually makes there's some cases where we can make the click to move stuff look more natural as well. It's kind of minor stuff, but like the animation does look actually better for click to move too due to that.
And what sort of skills can you use while moving? That was mentioned that some.
I got a new microphone. How's it sound? Does it sound okay?
Yeah, so
hopefully it sounds better. I haven't streamed in a while, so I don't expect to remember how it used to sound. But
you definitely want to have.
I just installed it or put it together last night.
That you can use.
Did all the
that way,
filters and
tweaking.
tweaking.
Feel faster when you can kind of be doing stuff on the way to the next monster, this kind of thing. It just kind of improves it in a way that once we tried it, we were just like, wow, that's actually really cool. It won't be like everything, or like a lot of the time, I think what we're doing is getting the like we can shorten the windows because we've got this ability now. We can kind of shorten the windows where you're not allowed to move, where there's like movement locked out in skills as well. So like only like right near the contact point do you actually have to stop. And then for other skills, we can do them completely while you're moving. So like some of the skills that you might want to spam in some cases, things like that, it can be okay. So I'm not going to like give you a list or anything, but yeah, we definitely want to have making sure that each build has skills that you can do while moving available, so that you can kind of utilize the time when moving between packs to be able.
Skills that incorporate more movement or even play with the lack of movement, like planting your feet.
What
was that? Sorry?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I think Discord kind of lagged out for a second there.
Oh, okay. The other thing as well is that is another question people have asked is like how does it work when you are using click to move? And the answer is honestly pretty simple. Like you click where you want to move, and then you move the mouse and use the skill in the other direction, and then your character will just not be interrupted the move. They'll just keep moving while you shoot in the other direction. That does work. Like it is technically like it takes a bit more mouse movement to be able to do it if you want to be able to move while you're doing it, but it does work. So there's no technical disadvantage there other than just effectively what you're doing is it's like what the same exact motion you do if you're stutter stepping, except that you're able to actually move at the same time while you're doing it basically.
Yeah, you effectively like queue up a move command and then fire in the opposite direction or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you find that this is... What's that?
I was saying it's like lower APM stutter stepping.
Yeah.
Do you find that this is like opening up a lot new design space for you with skills then? Because this is like a new way of thinking that you haven't really had access to in terms of skill design now.
For sure. There's definitely a lot of stuff. Like we haven't even really yet explored all the repercussions on other builds as much as we would like to yet. Like there's a lot of stuff to change here and kind of get and utilize that stuff for. But yeah, as I said, once we tried it, it's just like, yeah, we need to be exploring this all throughout what we're doing and making sure that we can take advantage of it so it feels as natural as possible when you've got like direct character control like that.
What we're finding here is the overarching goal with the new characters in Path of Exile 2 is that each one plays entirely differently. We're releasing 12 games in one where you can play an entirely different style with each character.
WASD seems like it works a ton better for the mercenary than a lot of the other situations I can think of.
And this means that Jonathan's team is pioneering these new things like the WASD controls, using a class as an example. Like the mercenary is the canonical WASD control one because of the crossbow stuff feeling like a gun, and then the fallout from that, of course, is then it benefits all the other classes.
He said the G word.
Play styles, and that kind of falls through afterwards, and we get time to experiment with how it actually works on those classes.
Yeah. At the risk of going like off topic a little bit, I already noticed in previous reveals that like the melee stuff is getting a lot more fluid with a lot more movement and stuff like that. But a lot of that was a kind of pre-scripted but modifiable movement after the fact, where you could like whirl and then change direction a little bit like that. But it seems like now even you might even be able to have things like where your character's able to do a cleave while taking a couple extra steps, just little things like that. So it seems like it's going to change gameplay a lot from Path of Exile 1 to 2.
I think it can, but we do have to be careful. Like, I don't want the feeling of just complete floatiness. Like, we don't want, like, I wouldn't want it so that every skill you can just do without, like, while moving arbitrarily. Like, it needs to still feel like there's at least some amount of the animation where you're kind of like locked into that little bit. So for something like Cleave, for example, what I do is you can kind of step into it and then you can move really quickly after the slash, but the actual slash itself, you need a bit of that sort of like locked in just so that you got something going on there, because otherwise it'll just feel like you kind of don't really exist. You're just like floating around, kind of not really doing anything. So that's a little bit vague, but effectively, I just want to avoid the kind of feeling where where you don't feel like you're a real character in the world, which you can get if you just allow full unrestricted. Like if you do absolutely everything while moving and there was no slowdowns or anything, then it would feel real floaty, and I don't like that either. So you know, it can be a little bit of an interesting one. You have to really look at the feel of every single skill. And
next question.
Get the timing windows exactly right for everything to be able to make it actually feel really solid and good. But yeah, if we're doing our job right, then every class should have quite a distinct feel as far as all that stuff goes.
Like, I get what you mean. Like once you have more movement, that's when you can start playing with like, okay, in what situations do we stop movement? Like I noticed with the crossbow, for example, the character planted their feet for the shotgun shots especially, and that made that look and feel a lot more impactful. So that seems by design there.
Exactly.
Perfect. On that note, then let's talk a bit about the crossbows. It seems they've changed quite a bit since the original reveal with the armor-piercing bolts and whatnot.
Yep, they have. Yep, that meme is no longer applicable, hopefully. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the split to all of the classes happened after that last the last reveal, and so then we were kind of like, we need to make sure that we're making.
Can you get mirror rewards in Ultimatum?
Like there were like the mechanical
Can that be the
ideas
final
of, like, having
prize?
ammos and stuff like that for the crossbows before, but I don't think we'd quite yet nailed the kind of like, how is a crossbow actually going to feel really different to play than a bow? And it wasn't until I sort of made the observation that, hey, you know, like if we're like a crossbow, like if you pull the trigger on a crossbow, it needs to fire instantly. We should be putting the contact point literally at 0.
Yeah, same with everything. I was just curious if it could technically happen.
Point where the damage happens, etc., etc. You know, we need to move that right to the start, and if we do that, like what kind of things, you know, would need to change? And
I mean, hell, Sanctum's getting nerfed because it gave too many mirrors, and I did how much Sanctum, and I didn't even see a single one. I must have run thousands of
things. It's like the amount of engine brokenness that the mercenary brought to the front was so high.
Inscribed
like the amount of
ultimatums.
things like that we had to fix in order to make the mercenary work in the engine was just ridiculous. Like I found so many bugs. I mean, these are all going to be fixed, by the way, in POE 1 as well, because the engine is shared. But
Was that what they were talking about with the one Atlas passive node that makes them like super hard? Is that what technically the inscribed ultimatums
and
would
they
be?
appear 1 frame late after they leave your character as well. And that it turns out all objects when they're created appear 33 milliseconds late from when
Tonight I'm going to watch a bunch of ultimatum
and, like,
shit,
there was,
so I kind of get a gist of what I'm doing.
Actually, like, because like when you're dealing with something like this, like if you've got like a bullet effectively traveling ultra fast, it has to happen instantly as soon as you click, and like all these things, there was like so many engine things where it's like we're speeding all this shit up, and like the engines just started breaking all over the place. So yeah, there was a lot of technical improvements that had to happen in order to make that stuff work. Not to even mention the whole like WSD and all the animation system stuff, and yeah, like it was pretty crazy. So I'm really glad to remove a lot of jank that existed that we hadn't noticed before, because things weren't fast enough to see the problems. And you know, there was a lot of like frame by framing it and like making sure that every
Rue as in
frame
Rue
was
too,
perfect and all
because the
that
first
stuff
thing
going
that
on.
came on was
it
Ruju's been
pretty
banned
crazy
from Path of
during development
Exile.
this stuff.
Is there a good story behind
how
this?
that pans out in terms of improvements.
Sure.
So on the crossbows, I noticed that they have the new like skill bound to the weapon thing where they fire differently. So you have your shotgun crossbow and you have your semi-automatic crossbow or whatever. Are we mostly going to be modifying those primary skills, or are there going to be other primary separate skills that, or just kind of more ammo types that modify the base skills?
So there's definitely going to be more ammo types. There will be other skills.
That's an awful
what we
way
did to sort of solve, as it were, the crossbow.
I'll have to look up a
crossbow
video
skills
on that later
tied
too.
to the primary firing type was to have the attachments. And so those basically are effectively skill gems, except that you equip them where you'd equip a quiver instead. But they have support gems and everything like that. And effectively, whenever we want to have a crossbow skill, as it were, that isn't related to one of those primary firing types, then that'll be where that can go. And so there's way more than what we even showed there. Like we just showed like some grenades, but there's all sorts of other quirky types that have been come up with that you can attach to your crossbow. Like
Man,
someone made, like,
I'm trying not to be a
I'm not sure
bummer
how
about
to
them
use
just
that.
talking about POE 2.
I don't know if that one will actually
because I get it, but it's a year away and I cannot help it. I just want, like, we're playing this new league in a week. Like, I want to hear more about that.
Yeah,
There's so much time for them to talk about this
things,
stuff.
Of course, like
And all of this could change for POE 2. So it's like, I get that you're excited, but like, we have another year plus.
Ballista totems. There's still ballista totems and other things like that, and like various other skills.
That's
So there's definitely other
leagues.
skills that we expect this class to use. But we kind of ran out of like time to be able to show like all the different things that you can do, and we'll show more of this later. But yeah, there's going to be other stuff that you can fill your skill slots with for sure as well. So don't worry about that.
So are some bow skills going to become crossbow skills? Is there going to be shared across the two?
There are certainly some concepts that we might. I mean, look, when we're designing the classes, we're kind of like we do look at POE 1 and be like, is there anything here that we want to crib from, to kind of to use? And there might have been a couple of things that
tincture they just showed.
Concepts, but overall,
it stuns all enemies that are at 100% health.
Time like this is
while you're on full health.
Crossbow skill than a bow skill, but
or stuns enemies that are on full health.
We're looking at designing.
If they don't nerf Sanctum and you get that Tinctum.
There will be cases where we go back and
so many builds, especially any long range, are now Sanctum viable because you don't have to worry about the freeze. You can just stun them immediately before they hit you.
There were skills from POE 1, but like
that means it would make Sanctum even better to run.
But they don't really.
But they're probably getting nerfed into the ground.
They kind of end up quite different.
Yeah, I feel like I remember seeing like a melee skill became a spell or something like that. Some pretty big changes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have to listen to it all.
So are the crossbows exclusive to the mercenary, or are they something anyone can use?
I mean, just like anything in PoE, everyone can always use everything. I mean, we obviously, when we're showing stuff, we sort of show it as if like, this is a thing restricted to this class, something, but it isn't, of course. Yeah. Like, you can use it anywhere. And one thing we definitely try to do is make sure that there are keywords.
I mean, the new passive, the ascendancy tree,
sure, like, even if we don't know exactly how that'll be
is useful, like it's a fucking forbidden flesh and forbidden flame, but you can use it for example, on the crossbow so many other classes,
which is the same mechanic we were using.
Which is
warrior.
like, it's crazy.
I mean, look,
like,
maybe in theory,
that's going to open up so many builds. The builds that come out of this league are going to be fucking nuts.
By having the shared keywords across different classes, it just means that if someone wants to come up with something weird, they can do that. So yeah, absolutely, you can use stuff across.
I'm definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to do armor piercing bolt, crossbow, and then.
Oh yeah, and then you add in flame and flesh.
Always crit.
Rip stream.
Happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably pretty broken, actually, as the balance stands right now. I bet it's actually, like, real broken.
It is right now.
Yeah.
With it seems like Discord died for the stream a little bit there. Sorry, Jonathan, what did you say? Mark, what did you say?
I'm assuming it takes your legit ascendancy points, right? Or is this an extra tree that you get points from the mechanic?
Using Sunder.
Because that's just, that would just be absolutely nuts. It takes your normal ascendancy points, right?
Always crit. And higher crit damage
if the
target's armor broken. So when we show the warrior, armor break,
it takes points that you get from the fucking mechanic.
Right in the face to break the armor. But now I'll just do it from a distance.
So you still get your normal ascendancy plus that tree.
So yeah, there's a potential build there. For sure.
We've got the weapons swapping and the tree swapping and stuff. I hope we see some hybrid melee ranged. It's a great.
Holy fuck! That's so crazy.
Especially for the mercenary, I feel it'd be a great fit. But moving on a little bit, we've got the oil grenade.
I'm gonna have a cast iron crit ice spear with fucking board of fires.
Of oil on the ground on fire. Is that something you might expand to with other skills, enemy abilities, or even like combat areas? Like, here's an oil barrel, you can light that on fire or something.
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely love that stuff, like the environmental stuff. But I mean, even with the other skills we're designing, like, I mean, things like the volcano interaction with the druid, that's another example of that kind of like.
Yeah, those are just the two we saw.
Do something with it. I quite like that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I absolutely want to be doing more of that. I mean, and the more.
And there's the onslaught one, but we got a taste of that because you could use the tattoo last league.
The world where it's like,
so we already kind of felt what that felt like.
All that stuff allows you to do more setting up for something you're going to do afterwards, which I think is a big part of being able to do combos and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
I bet it will.
I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff.
We do have monsters integrating with that as well. Like we have, to give a couple examples, we have explosive barrels with lines of gunpowder, and the lines are randomly generated, and then you have monsters with torches that will run up and set them on fire.
Yeah.
And we've got another one as well that throws, it's like more of an alchemist monster, and it throws two types of, I guess, flasks or concoctions. And one creates ground type A and one creates ground type B, and if they mix, they end up creating a new type of ground type and exploding and doing massive AoE damage, like just chemical reactions.
Yeah.
It's coming up with a whole alchemy system for your
Yeah,
environmental
Oh,
interactions.
it's cool. We tried it in Heist. Surprise! I don't know if anyone even in PoE 1 notices this, but there is oil there that does catch on fire. It just doesn't look anywhere near as
Yeah, that'd be
good.
dope.
Just because like where the art is and where the effects is now for PoE 2 is just allowing things to look incredible.
Similarly, we're seeing like more and more powerful control and utility effects. Like for example, in this clip, we saw the shots placing ice walls, and they were like blocking and taunting enemies. I noticed it seemed. How do you keep these sorts of effects like feeling powerful and relevant in boss fights without just kind of breaking the fight or trivializing them?
I mean, on some level, like we.
I wonder
have to
how
be able
often
to
you
let
can
players
use the
those tools in boss
tinctures.
fights, because otherwise
This is
there's
like a
no point in them.
potion,
Like,
right?
I really want it to be the kind
Does
of
it
game
work
where you
with
can
like
use
say
that kind of more
Pathfinder
control
mods?
type stuff. And I mean, like
Like,
it's
does it
funny
have like
because a lot of the designers, when we talk to
does
them,
it
they're
have
like,
like
"Hey,
an
we love this,"
automatic
and
thing
they're
where
like, "Oh my God,
charges
that's
don't
like that's
refill
it's
during like
crazy because
use?
you know, like it's going to be way too easy."
I feel like there's going to
and
be
then
something
Mark will look
that'll
at it and
keep
goes,
it in
"It's not
check
that
and make it
broken.
not that
It's not that
amazing.
broken." It's like you look at some of the stuff you can do in PoE 1, and I'm like, the ability to
Oh,
like
they
freeze
said
people
toggle
in
on and
place
off?
with walls is like
And
nothing
no
compared to
duration to
like
perma?
the ridiculousness that your character can get to. So yeah, like when you actually think about
Holy
it,
shit.
like it's not that broken really. I mean, and we want players to have fun at the end of the day, right? We want them to be able to use those tools, and I quite enjoy it. But in particular, though, with the
I just want them to
the
like
ice
either
though,
ask
those
this
walls,
league stuff questions,
once a monster gets above a certain
or
size,
just end the
they no longer
Q&A
get
so I
blocked by
can
them
go
and they
back
run
and
through
watch the
them.
video
They still
again.
get shot, they explode. So Ursea, you might have noticed, like the baby wasn't able to get through the walls, but Ursea can run through them, and then they just get that little detonation. So the skill actually changes a bit. Like against small monsters,
True.
they have to like stop and attack. It completely blocks them in, and then they
Technically
and they
not by
can't get
Mage
through.
Blood
But
standards,
against
they wouldn't
large
be
monsters, the monster
super overpowered.
rolls right through it, but then they explode and get chilled. So it kind of changes the function a little bit for boss versus the small monsters, and so that's why that particular skill I think is actually fine in that regard. So yeah, there's little tricks like that.
4-slot Mage Blood plus a
I
tincture.
honestly really enjoy the stuff.
Basically a 5-slot
size,
Mage
which was
Blood
never a
with
factor
just
in
the
PoE 1
no
design.
increased
Like
effect
monster
on it.
size means that we can say, okay, like bigger, like this happens to large monsters. I mean, it all makes some kind of physical sense on some level. Bigger monsters can have this.
Man,
happen,
this
small
league's gonna
monsters
be
have that
fucking
happen, and that
crazy.
can kind of allow you a bit of.
I knew I was going to
control
be
in that way as
hyped,
well.
but that looks fucking nuts.
Does this
I
give
cannot
you
wait.
Mark some interesting tools to play with when
Yeah,
designing
no
bosses?
unique flask. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But I'm
generally,
so
yes.
terrible
I've had rants about this
at turning
before.
it
I
on
love
at the right moment because I
I love
usually
the
don't have
object
it on
size. I like
when I
things
hit a
pushing you
unique
around,
enemy
and I like
because
that
then I
small
always
monster
never have
can't
it
and
for
a
the
large
boss.
monster can, and like things like the knockback.
So I'd be
and
okay with not
just the
having to
thing
use unique
feeling
flask.
very physical and as it would, I guess, in real life, is quite important to me.
The
And
more
it makes
brain
the game
dead for
feel
me, the
just
better.
way more grounded. Like you're actually in there, and it makes sense as opposed to. I mean, that's something about the mercenary as well. I know this is tangential, but I'll just get into it. Like when I don't know if people notice, but when you fire at a monster on the ground, like that area had babies in it, the crossbow aims down and shoots down.
Yes,
Like
that was a change that was also absolutely needed.
whereas in PoE 1 and like if there's a little like the little insects, for example, down there, you'll fire your bow and the arrow will just go this and hit it, and it's like it doesn't feel right. Now you may wonder, okay, well, how can it pierce if it aims down? And the answer is it can't. But
I mean, it does a bit because like you still
well, yeah,
get
sure.
Yeah, I think
goes
it's going to
through
get
and then hits
nerfed.
the ground,
I
but,
think it
like,
will for 100%.
It does change
That's
the
like what a
gameplay in
lot
an
of people
interesting way, but it
are
also
saying
makes
is
it
their
feel
number
way
one.
more realistic.
Well,
and you're
other
not
than
just, like,
Sanctum getting
shooting
nerfed, they're like
the air.
when
Yeah. One thing
Sanctum's
you
going to
didn't
get
see in
nerfed,
the
like yeah,
demo,
we
but
know,
actually,
and then a
like,
lot of people
now
are
the
like,
collision
and I think
geometry
Pathfinder for
everything
sure is going
actually
to
modeled
get
correctly to the
nerfed.
to everything, even the stuff outside the gameplay space. So you can fire a grenade out over the
But who
buildings
knows
and
with
like it'll hit the
GGG?
roofs and like bounce down on the roofs and like go down to the lower story and that sort of stuff. Like it actually has like all of that physics all working and
There's
everything.
even those problems in PoE 1 with like leap slam, where you leap slam off like over a ravine, your character will go down, up, down.
Yeah.
No more of that. No more.
Yeah, so like we've got
Get
lots
rid
of
of all of
yeah,
that.
yeah. Like there's a lot of physical stuff. In fact, like
Which is
and
funny
also
'cause
just
my
things like
plan
arrows
was
hitting,
to
like,
go
empty space
SRS,
and, like, stuff like that. Like now they
go
all
into
exactly
poison,
hit the geometry and like
and rush Sanctum all at the
lots
same
of-
time.
Yeah, there's. I mean, once
Yeah,
again, it
it
comes
looks
back to
like
all the
that's gonna
engine
be the
stuff
worst
we had
idea
to
ever.
fix in order to make the mercenary possible. Like
So I
it was
hope they
just
put
like,
the
we were
patch
like, okay,
notes
we can
out
no
so
longer tolerate all of
I
this,
can just
like,
dead that in my
non-physical
mind
stuff
and already start
anymore.
thinking
We have
about
to
it,
actually
an
make
alternative.
it right. So yeah, there was a big lot of changes required, and it makes just everything feel a lot more realistic and kind of grounded, which is good.
One of the reasons why the groundedness matters here is because one of the factors that varies from fight to fight is the terrain you're fighting in. And so if you can interact with the shape of that terrain in a different way and it actually has an
Sure.
impact, it will make the fights feel different.
I like how it affects the monsters too, because instead of just shooting at a wall when you're up on an elevation, they'll actually like pathfind backwards to try and get a line of sight to you with their projectile.
Yeah.
Which is
Because
kind of interesting.
they take into account height in the pathfinding now,
Yeah.
so they actually have to find like a line of sight to you, up a cliff and this kind of thing. Like there's some pretty interesting things.
Wow, very cool. So for demonstrations and things like demos and stuff, you're obviously going to be showing off as many different abilities and combos and stuff like that as possible, like more than you typically have on an actual character. But I'm curious then, kind of what are your expectations or hopes for PoE 2 in terms of how many skills and combos a well-refined character build is going to be running at endgame?
I mean, I personally believe that you should have probably 2 to 3.
Yeah.
2 is going to be very common. I think 3 will be pretty common as well in terms of like core combos for your character. And then
Or
depending
where
on
the
context,
maps
like,
are
what
on the
what's going on with the boss fight or just
map
with the
atlas,
monsters,
are they just
you'll
shuffled?
decide to do one or the other.
You know what I mean?
But what I quite like about
Like,
the way the game plays,
I haven't paid enough attention
you've got
when they
some plan
change
in
them,
mind for what you're
because
doing,
obviously they take
but,
out
like,
maps and
since,
insert
like,
maps.
No plan survives contact with the
Can
enemy
like
kind
a
of thing,
strand
like,
be all of a
the
sudden a
enemies
tier
are doing things
16
that's kind
map?
of disrupting that, and then you're like, oh, I need to use
Like
this
last
skill to
season
kind
it
of
was
deal
tier
with that.
1.
And so that a lot of the time you can have like
Oh,
I
nice.
think you saw this on the druid as well. It's like the entire the druid basically had synergy for the entire set of skills that it had. But in reality, when you're playing, it's like you can't kind of get off the full combo all the time. You need to kind of like sometimes you can, and then you get a huge amount of damage. But the rest of the time, you're kind of
Beach
using
and Strand
individual
being
subparts
connected
of
to
the
each
combo
other
that, like, because multiple
was
parts
pretty
of it still
broken.
work together, and so you can still
wish
sort
that
of
was
have
like always a thing.
like like utilizing different parts of it is still useful in different situations, but then you can kind of use everything together in one go in the end and
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of get
true.
something really awesome. So like different characters will feel a bit different in this regard, but I really do want like some like interesting combos going on, and
Can
to
safely
be
say
very
I've never
context
bought
sensitive,
or
right? Like
sold
what
Horizon
the
Worms.
enemies are doing should matter, and
I
what
forget
you
to
are
use
doing.
them half the
Like that
time.
is, I guess, the sort of key element of that.
Well, I guess I
and
do
so
use
and in
them
order
quite a
to
bit
achieve that, you're
when I'm,
going
like,
to want to
looking for those
have like
last
2 different
couple.
options on your character to take care of different situations.
Before we move on to some Path of Exile 1 and Affliction questions, we have just a couple more chat questions to
Oh,
ask.
there's no more chat
Do
questions.
you need
They
to
don't
spend
they
all
don't
the
matter.
crossbow ammo to reload, or can you reload manually as well? Is there like a hotkey or something for that?
Yeah, you can reload manually. So effectively, if you use the ammo skill again, it'll reload the thing. So yeah, there is a reload.
Great. Will Path of Exile 2 be cross-platform at all?
Yes, it will be.
That's true.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that they're like super
Will
good for
boss and monster
completing the
balancing
atlas.
be done around
Or
WSD
re-rolling
movement
into a good
balancing, or will
tier
be
16
keeping
map
mouse
or something
movement
like you
players
said.
in mind as well?
I mean, we're always going to make sure that it's okay for both type of players, but I wouldn't say that the balancing has to be hugely different, honestly. Like, especially with the dodge roll and everything, you can get where you need to go with click to move as well. It's just that the immediacy of WSD just sort of feels better, or like I think that I don't think there's necessarily a huge balancing task there, but maybe Mark, you've got a different feeling.
No, it's ultimately the same.
Yeah.
But there's some tiny things like to give a real picky example, it's like when you click to move, you pathfind, right? And with WSD, it
is technically pathfinding a little bit, but it's
a bit less. And so like you're more likely to run into a where if you were to click around something, your character would path around it. But if there was like a point, your character might run into that and get stuck because you actually have to navigate around yourself.
It does pathfind on WSD, though.
Yes, but there's a couple cases like that, but that's not really balance. It's more like we have to. I mean, yeah, you're running into a dead end.
I would say though that, like, for example, the bag. I don't know what the name of the monster we eventually went with, but the bag ladies. I don't know, in that area, I did find them a bit easier to dodge with WSD because you can like take a step back really easily when you're fighting them. When they get up close. There are things like that like are a little bit easier, whereas with click to move, like you're less inclined to because you'd have to move the mouse to the other side of the character to kind of be able to do that. Or else dodge roll, which takes a bit longer. So there are like a few cases there where it's like you get a bit more control there, but it's fine.
Yeah, ultimately, there's not a lot you need to change balance wise.
Right.
Well, pretty much nothing.
So will we be seeing a bit more from PoE 2 between now and the beta then?
Of course, well, I mean, at the very least, there'll be, the next league live stream and everything. We'll definitely want to have some stuff to show there.
Oh, I can look at the patch
but
notes.
as we get towards the beta, we're going to be showing a heck of a lot more. And I also want to make sure that we get I want to do a deep dive like this for every character class, so that we can sort of see what to expect. And I think there are also good references for the type of gameplay that a player in terms of when you're picking a class, like what class do I want to pick? Being able to see what type of gameplay you can expect is, I think, a good thing. So I want to have one of those for all the classes, if we can.
Crafting options you can use.
Great, and you have a lot
For
of classes
example,
now
you can
to
add
deep
quality
dive,
to
so that's
gems,
lots of
add experience.
Great. All right, so moving on to Path of Exile 1 and Affliction first.
So Affliction
looks like you're kind of walking through a carpet of cockroaches with a candle to get them off.
On release
Do you
weekend,
guys ever
we
worry
expect to
when you
launch
design
the
a
new
league
mystery
mechanic
box and this
like this
season's
that you're gonna
Kerrick's
be
Vault
just
Pass.
scaring some
Thanks
players
for
off and
joining
just
us.
gonna nope out because of that?
Supporter packs to
Any crazy new skill combinations to plan around.
It
So
is
we
a
expect
horror
to see some
game,
really
there's a lot of
interesting new
horror in it
builds.
already. We've had
Next
a few
up,
examples.
I'd like to hand
though,
back
like
over to
just give a
Chris to
small
talk about the new
anecdote of,
supporter packs.
There was, I think, it was the last.
At this
or the-
point, we
maybe
usually
current-
talk about the league
mystery
supporter
box that has the
packs.
spider portal.
We're doing
in it.
things a bit differently this
We
year.
actually had people
Rather
like
than releasing
specifically
league
go, I
supporter
don't
packs
want to
today
buy
and then
this
our
mystery
annual
box
core
because I
packs
have
2 weeks
arachnophobia
later,
and I don't
we've
want
combined
to
it
get
all
that
together
spider.
into a strong set of core
the way I
supporter
can get
packs that
everything
will be
but the
released
spider from
alongside
it.
Path of Exile
And
Affliction next
the
week.
short answer is no.
The series contains 5
but,
packs,
like,
each with its
how
full
does that
value in
person
points and a collection of
reaper or
exclusive
get
cosmetic
through it?
microtransactions.
But
The higher packs contain
no,
physical
generally, like,
merchandise.
the game has a
We'll
lot of
unveil the
horrific
full
stuff in
details
it,
of each of the
and
packs at
especially,
release next week.
what's
But
going
in the
on in that
meantime,
mercenary
here's a
demo,
sneak
you know,
peek
when
of
you
some of
start
their exclusive
pulling up
cosmetic
punches and stuff for that
microtransactions.
stuff for sure.
These packs will be available for purchase when
Oh my
Path
God,
of
just
Exile
say the
Affliction
patch notes
launches
time
on the
again.
8th of December. Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
And he's like, this is very useful.
We're just about to start the
Designed
Q&A
by
with
Aziz.
ZD. Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full patch notes. With the release
So,
at the end
talking
of
about
next
mechanics, the wisps
week,
that
our
allow you to
community
explore
team
the
will...
Nice,
wildwood
the end of the stream.
are somewhat of a limited resource, it seems. Is this a timer or is it a distance traveled, some kind of mechanic like that?
It's distance traveled, but it's distance
Okay.
traveled into the bugs and the cockroaches and stuff.
Yep.
So it's how much of that you can purge away. So if you run back on a path you've already been, like let's say you run up some way and then you want to go back and then go a different direction, like running back where you've been doesn't use the resource, but running anywhere new does.
Oh, that's nice.
I think that'll be a popular decision instead of it being like, say, a hard timer.
Yeah, for sure.
So how long is a venture into the wildwood typically? Like, how long are you like exiting your map?
Well, even typical is somehow subjective here, but obviously it depends on your character. But I mean, anywhere. I would expect most people to be in there like kind of a minute, upwards of 2 minutes. But
So
like,
it sort of depends on what you run into, though, because if you run into a boss fight, it can it can be a while.
it does depend
So-
what you find. But like, I mean, you could be in there as short as 30 seconds, or or a lot less if you're just not really caring where you're going. But that is not the right tactic to have at all.
And there isn't time pressure here in any way. You can be in there for a quarter of an hour if you're just incredibly methodical and barely move.
I don't think that anyone would be doing that, but yeah.
You can.
We are catering to slower players who don't like the gotta go fast thing. Like,
Yeah.
you can go fast. It's more efficient to go fast, but you don't have to.
I wanted.
That's a
Sorry,
good call.
I wanted something that was normalized a bit more between faster and slower players. Like you can
Right.
do it at your own pace, as opposed to feeling like ultra stressed. And a faster player can do it as fast as they want, and that's still fine.
Excellent. So you get these wisps and you free them, they go into your map and they infect monsters and you make them drop more loot. Are they like more likely to choose more powerful enemies like rares and bosses, or is it just fully random?
They are more likely to pick, bosses and rares or higher rarity monsters going down. Yes.
And otherwise there would have been like no chance for multiple wisp types to go into one monster, right? So
Yeah.
we had to make it so that it was relatively likely for that to occur, but it doesn't always happen. It's kind of it's variable.
As a typical Path of Exile player, I immediately thought of abuse cases for this. Can you like kill all the monsters in a map except the boss and then just go in and come out and then free the wisp into the boss only, stacking it
Well,
up?
Thankfully, as we're also PoE players, we have also thought of this.
No.
We don't think of everything, but at least in that case, no, it is a chance per monster. So if you clear the whole map and then go and do it, the resultant is, well, it's actually detrimental for you.
Yeah. And the wildwood always appears at the start of the map. So that means that you always like have the chance, like that way you get the most, just to make sure that you get the most what do you call it, equity of the drop
Bang for your
equity or
buck.
whatever out of doing it. So like
A little like Delirium where the mirror would spawn.
exactly, it is exactly like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Wow, you guys have thought of it.
We've done this for a while now. I guess. We've got-
Some experience.
Yeah.
So some players love mechanics in maps and others seem to love ones that cause them to take a break from a map. There's definitely some divide there. Interestingly, I noticed that Affliction is a little bit of both. It's a portal, but it juices your map afterwards. How do you folks like to balance the desires of the player base when it comes to designing leagues like this?
Ultimately, we just like to do a bit of all of it. Sometimes it's out of map, sometimes it's in map, sometimes in this case it's a bit of both. Like there isn't really some, elaborate decision that goes into it. It's just kind of like we feel like it's time for one or the other.
I mean, we definitely have discussions of like, oh, you know, we've done a couple of an area ones, let's do an out of area one. Oh, we've done some out of area ones, let's do an area one. Like, you know, in this case, we were like, it just sort of felt good to have both things. So you know, it was good. But yeah, like honestly, we try to just have a variety.
There's this kind of concept, at least that I use internally, which is what shape is the combat, and we want to try all the different shapes we can do, and we haven't run out of shapes yet.
This shape technically is whatever shape you want to, because you can run. So it's an undefined shape.
All right.
I have to always look out for my co-op buddies. How does Affliction work in multiplayer?
So once you die, you can't go back in. Just worth noting. Technically, that's multiplayer or single player, but only the map owner can, or if they're not present, I believe it nominates someone else, but I'll make sure that's the case if not. Can actually reveal fog or the mist, whatever, the bugs. And when you collect, so the expectation is the party members kind of follow them around, and the wisps that you collect, it's the same amount, so they're just a shared pool. Like it doesn't.
Any player who collects wisps will go to the primary player. So like they're all so there's effectively the map owner is the one in charge of of exploring basically.
But anyone can pick them up if you want to spread out a little bit like that. So it works in multiplayer. Due to the nature of the rewards, just being based on the monsters' drops, they will scale with like party drops like normal. So there's no like they just work as standard multiplayer drops would work.
Right.
Great. And we get this new ascendancy system as a reward for this, which seems quite significant, especially seeing some of the specific bonuses there. How challenging is it to actually unlock these Wildwood ascendancies and gain all of their points?
So you can get 8 points per class. You get your first 2 points when you meet the NPCs, which occurs relatively early. I think we have and it is slightly RNG based, and is whether or not you find them. And but you can increase the chance of finding them by following the trails of wisps. They will lead to them.
So the different colors have different things at the end of the trails. So you can
guiding fairies,
and each color associates to an NPC. So I think they can start appearing around Act 2, and then the expectation is by end of Act 5, you've probably found each of them once. And when you meet them, you get your first 2 points, and then they'll give you a quest if you spec into that class to find more wisps or kill some monsters, like real basic quests, all done within the forest. And then you get your 4th point, and then or 3rd and 4th points, and then you have a quest to kill like a mini boss, and then it'll give you your 5th and 6th, and then the final 2 points are from killing the final boss of the league, which is probably relatively difficult. Like that's a level 83 kind of equivalent to
Thank
say
God.
like Lycia from Sanctum, or not quite pinnacle boss, but like just below it kind of thing.
Nice.
So that will be hard. So you could argue the first 6 points, the first 2 points are very easy. First 6 easier than probably say Labyrinth or the normal Ascendancy equivalent, but the last 2 points will be quite a lot harder than the regular Ascendancy 8 last 2 points.
And this is in parallel /
New boss,
to your
83 boss.
Ascendancy class, and it's
Log
bonus.
in.
You have 2 classes here to clarify.
Yeah, and that last one that was revealed was like a little bit of everything. pretty cool. Those charms. So the unique specters from the Breaker of Oaths, including bosses like the Hydra, was certainly a surprise. Can you have more than one Hydra Spectre, or like an army of bosses?
You can have up to your Spectre limit of Hydras, but they cannot be desecrated. So once you have it, once you have the item, you buy it from him. You can only Spectre it once. Once it dies, then you have to buy more of them. But yes, it will be hard to find them.
You can trade them.
Yes, you can trade for them. I really wanted this whole I wanted you to be able to find the NPC and then be able to effectively buy something from them that could be worth multiple divines. And I'm like, a Hydra could be worth multiple divines. Like, let's see if we can do that.
Note, you can buy these and trade them even if you aren't that class.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
So there's a reason to look at the shop for all of the NPCs, regardless of whether or not you're that Ascendancy class, because other people can use them.
Talk about the fragility of the Hydra.
Yes. Well, it is worth noting the Hydra's health in particular is relatively low, so you do have to keep it alive.
Does it get auras?
The Spectres in general they're pretty interesting. There's a lot I've tried to go for where we've gone.
Because if you
give
could make
stats
them
that
super
other
strong
builds
and
wouldn't
you just
use.
played
Like,
an aura
there's
bot,
one, for example,
you could
where one
aura
of its
bot with your
properties
Hydras
just says your owner, as in the player, has 5% more
and just have
attack
them
damage
kill everything.
or melee attack damage. I can't remember which of those two. And then if you get all your Spectres, you can get like 40% more attack damage. But now you're a melee build that's investing in plus Spectre limit, and there's some interesting weird things you might be doing there. And then of course that means you need minion life, otherwise they're all just going to die. And there's hopefully some kind of weird, interesting builds that come out of this, where you have unorthodox builds using Spectres that you normally wouldn't.
And you had that interesting one with Fire Fury and.
Oh yeah, there's a kind of, I don't know what they're called, but it's effectively Fire Fury and Hailrake, and they specifically the Fire Fury one says becomes empowered if there is if you also have a Hailrake Spectre, and the Hailrake Spectre says the same thing. So then you want to run two different ones, which again is also kind of abnormal, because normally when you do play a Spectre build, you stack a lot of the same thing. So it's promoting a bit of just different gameplay around that.
So there's something going on between the Fire Fury and the Hellrack. Then they have some backstory together. I guess
They're empowering each other, yeah, for sure.
They are. Fanfic authors take notes.
Yeah, here we go. New fanfic in progress. The charms for the Wildwood Primalist, they capture random parts of other Ascendancy nodes and allow you to create a new one in kind of like a build your own Ascendancy fashion. What sort of limitations are there? Can you just get like any power from any node?
You can't get anything. I can't remember exactly what you can and can't get, but there are some stuff that is like it's binary and ultra powerful, and like that's just too much power to give from a single node like that can have two modifiers on it. So you can't get everything, but you can get most things, and even in some cases where they are binary, we've made non-binary versions of that property where it's like can either be chance-based or percentage-based, like a portion of it. But they do stack as well. So like, for example, you can get the 3 sockets, and obviously you can get like, we showed, say, the Occultist Curse Explosion. Like, if you just want to go all in on the chance of that, you could try and get that on all 3 of them. But again, it's going to be pretty rare. They're unmodifiable, but again, tradable. And I'm expecting, again, going under the philosophy of I want you to be able to find these NPCs and occasionally find something worth a lot.
Oh no, please don't tell me they're just as rare as saying getting a Forbidden Flesh with that same thing. Please, for the love of God.
And again, you don't have to be that class to find the charm.
Yes, we'll keep reiterating that, yes.
Yeah, there's some
shops.
Yeah, the shops should be valuable, hopefully.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Are there any limitations to this Primalist shouting items at corpses thing? It's like, are people just going to be going around shouting at every corpse for extra loot?
Well, it's one of these interesting... This one's been very controversial, I'll point out, internally. Don't get me wrong. For me, I really like it because it's a thing where if you're an efficient... Well, okay, let's think of it a few different ways. Firstly, if you're destroying corpses, it doesn't work, right? There's no body left to get loot from. So you can deal with spikers and or with the porcupines and among other things. But so
oh no, I want to hear this.
Oh, we had a bit of a
we're back now.
A Discord dip there. I'm going to just start that part again. But one thing to note is that yes, you have to have the corpse around, which means you have to be playing a build that doesn't destroy corpses. Meaning, of course, you have to deal with the Porcupine Goliaths. I don't know who heard that before, but whatever. And then the other thing to note is it actually rewards slower players more than faster players, because A, you have to Warcry, which is cooldown based. Are you really going to wait around meticulously Warcrying on every single corpse, or are you just going to move on and kill more monsters and run more maps? And so if you want to get the most out of your map, of course, that's a way to do it. But if you want to get most out of your time, that is not the way to do it. So yes, you could like Warcry, bind it to your left click and then just Warcry whenever it's available and get whatever loot you can get.
I reckon opening the chests is the
opening
that's time efficient.
Opening chests is a big time.
That's the main use of that skill, I would say.
But it is worth noting, just to get into some specifics of how that works as well. It doesn't care about the monster's quantity and rarity. It does care about map quant and rarity. So a boss is just going to occasionally drop like an item, if that. It doesn't like re-drop all its drops. So it's not like ultra powerful. Due to that, it's probably honestly going to yield a little bit more. Like it's more for like getting a little bit of extra currency than it is getting like unique items and rare items and stuff like that.
I'll ask the obvious question that you knew you'd get when you added a backpack inventory expansion. Do you think you'll give this to people outside of the Primalist?
Short answer, no. But I mean, look, we chuck these in, we experiment
Hey,
for 3
nice,
months,
dude.
and we see. This was also the node of the second highest level of controversy internally. Look, we'll give it a go. We'll see what happens. But like, I do not see that thing returning outside of the Primalists after the league, even if the league happens to go core. You know.
Yeah.
Controversial league.
Yeah, they
design
said they're doing the
sounds
patch
like
notes after this
internally.
stream.
Oof.
Well, they're 3 month
Attention.
experiments
Yeah,
essentially.
we like to try things.
I say controversy. It's fun.
It's not like there's a shouting match or anything going on, right? Like it's just.
Well, one of us isn't shouting. No.
We've got some more chat questions on Affliction before we move on to some of the other features. When you enter the Wildwood, do you start at the last place you're at? Is it like a continual exploration, or is it a new area each time?
It's not continuous, no. It is effectively an infinite forest, but you're put in a random place every single time. It's new exploration. It isn't continuous from the previous areas, no.
It feels slightly like the idea of Delve without the actual specific.
It isn't real. It isn't really like Delve because it doesn't have the whole like big map or anything like that.
Are the wisps tradable or collectible?
You shot Chris down. Nah, it's not. Shut the fuck up, Chris.
No, I mean they're tradable to the vendors, but that's not really trading. They're usable as currency for the vendors, but aside from that, no. They are, and between instants, they don't carry over at all. Right? Because once you leave the Wildwood, they're dispersed, so you don't get to keep them at all. No.
And just clarifying for people that missed this detail, you'll be able to use the regular Ascendancy class alongside the Wildwood Ascendancy class. It's extra on top.
You will eventually get 8 points in both. Yes.
Sweet. Can monsters attack from the fog of war in Affliction or only once they're fully revealed? Ooh, good question.
You will not get you're both not going to be like given an advantage as a range character to shoot into it, and you will not be attacked from it. They will not do similar to Delve Darkness. They will come out of the darkness before they engage with you. And generally, only things you reveal will actually engage with you.
Do map modifiers from the area you entered the Wildwood from affect the Wildwood, or is it completely separate?
That's a great question.
The map mods do affect it, yes. And
wow.
Where it doesn't increase the amount of wisps you get, it does increase the loot you get in general, which multiplicatively applies with the bonuses the wisps give monsters afterwards. So you are obviously, to get the max rewards like normal, you're incentivized to
pack size works on the monsters in the Wildwood.
Oh yes.
And because pack size works on them, that means you do get more wisps if you increase pack size. Because they're part of the drops of those monsters as well.
There are monsters that have wisps already in them in the forest, and they will give wisps. So yes, pack size will increase the amount of wisps you can get.
Which actually means that pack size can increase the duration that you can stay in the Wildwood, if I understand that correctly.
Different wisps.
Oh, different. All right, because that's the right. Okay, so it doesn't. It'll just increase the rewards then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just more rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
between this and the
technically
wisps you're
difficulty.
freeing, it sounds like a bit of a map juicing league then.
That was what I was going for. I really like things like Delirium where they overlap with all the other leagues.
Yep.
It's worth noting on that point. You might think, okay, the wisps disperse into the air and affect monsters once you exit. It will also affect monsters that are then spawned afterwards. So if you then go and activate a breach, there is like a portion of the breach monsters will be dusted as well, and thus their rewards and difficulty will also be increased. So yeah, it overlaps with any in-area league, I believe, as long as the monster gives loot and experience. Which obviously, if it doesn't, you don't really care about it. So.
Yeah.
This league sounds cracked. I like it. All right. Talking a bit about Ultimatum, the long-awaited return. It has been a long time in the returning. Did you face some specific challenges with its re-implementation or something?
Main challenge, I guess, was finding time to actually do the rebalance and reassess it. But like once we found the time, which we did, we got through all that, and I mean, now it's finally coming back. But yeah, it just comes down to time. We've got so much we always want to do, and just finding the resources to be able to get someone to fully reassess it and make the changes that we want it can be challenging for sure.
So it's not just something you wanted to just slap back in as it was. Then it sounds like it's changed a fair bit.
It's had a substantial amount of work done to it. Like, it is quite a lot there. There's a lot there. Yeah.
And obviously, it's going to be very different to how it was given the Atlas passives as well, and how you can modify it and change it, which will be relatively fun. But taking that into consideration as well is something that we didn't have to deal with before that we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that Ultimatum was so popular and so requested to return that it was like the number one thing asked about at ExileCon? Is there anything to like learn from that for future league designs?
Chance at big rewards.
I think about it, and also why do I think I like it? I mean, the mod selection is fun. I like how it works in parties as well, and I like, for people who know my Aurabot addiction, I love playing in parties where you get to vote on the mods and you go and pick the mod that no one wants just because you want to. Or you're an Aurabot and you pick that mod that causes your auras to apply to the enemies, and you just then hopefully your teammate,
And the double or nothing.
Oh shit, that was a mod.
I don't want to use the word addictive because that's a bad word these days, but definitely addictive.
Oh, I love that, and I think a lot of people resonate with that as well.
There's an ultimatum mod where
when you've got the divine orbs on the line, or the headhunter on the line, or like just whatever items on the line. It's like the thrill is just, it gives you that adrenaline rush that like I almost used to get in hardcore league. When I actually played that a lot more. Rest in peace.
It's risk reward, to put it another way, right? It's good risk reward stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Yes.
I think it had like a unique pacing too, with like intense action break, intense action break.
Oh yeah, for sure. I like that as well a lot.
Oh shit, that's pretty crazy.
I don't know. It's hard to say too many lessons learned aside from just how we can use things in the future. But I guess ultimately the risk reward and the pacing are probably the two biggest ones.
Do you want to talk about what happened with the combat changes to do with rare monsters and stuff in Ultimatum?
Yeah, I think it was around the time there was a lot of there was a bit of like, how do we make this harder that went on, and it ended up just cranking the rare monsters up. Like there was just points where there were like 9 rare of those blood chieftains on your screen, and the problem with that, especially with like obviously now looking at rare modifiers, like the level of visual pollution that adds. And like you can't even tell what's happening. Like there was a lot of going on in that league where there's just a massive crossfire of projectiles and just like a whole bunch of rare monsters, and like so we've gone with almost a more what we call expedition style balance, which is just like tone that down but make each monster individually more difficult and more meaningful. So it should be that it is less like more comprehensible in the moment as to what you're actually fighting and what you're actually doing, and still difficult, as opposed to just like spam everything, like crank up the rare monster number to infinity. But that's mostly, I think, of what's going on. It's just, which is honestly been working pretty well with respect to our monster balance lately. Right.
So Metamorph is getting removed as a part of this coming back of Ultimatum, with its unique rewards going to Ultimatum. Can you tell me a little bit about that decision, like to remove Metamorph?
Nobody played it.
Things going on
very
there,
few people played it.
The first is just the visual clarity of it again, going back to that. Like, you put these monsters together and then it just does this kind of like morphing thing. I mean, look, I've played this a lot, and it transforms into something and then I'm dead. I'm like, I don't even know what just happened. Like, what killed me here? I actually don't know. And it is meant to be the case that obviously I know what monsters I'm putting in, and I'm putting in this monster, this monster, this monster, and I know these do this skills, and because this one's in the brain slot, it does this big AoE. But the reality is, like, that's way too much to try and know and remember, and like there's hundreds of monsters with hundreds of skills going on there, and it's like you can't really tell. And so when you do put it together, it's like, oh, I like these rewards, and you put those in, and that's ultimately what you do as a player for that. And so you put in a monster, it spawns, and you maybe just
currency
die,
that one,
not.
currency
And
that one, this one.
Getting
currency.
that right is just pretty impossible, I would say. Like, I love the mechanic in a nutshell of you get to put monsters together to create a new boss fight, but it just wasn't working.
It was never my favorite league visually either. I just don't think it really looks that great.
Oh no, we dropped. I'm sure we'll get things back in just a second here, folks. Until then, enjoy the sliver of the side of my head while we get things repaired. We'll be back in just a moment.
Well, I gotta pee. Donnie, but I gotta pee. You wanna say hi to the stream? Oh, you need a haircut. Shouldn't be too long. All you gotta do is call back. Let me give him a treat real quick.
Is this working now?
Welcome back, folks. Apologies for the technical difficulties.
Yep.
We are back.
Discord just decided to self-destruct for some reason and then required a computer reboot to get back in action again.
I think you guys might have
I
made
don't think
Tane a little mad.
Yeah, Metamorph was a little bit unhappy about being removed, apparently.
So that brings us back to what we were talking about, just about Metamorph's removal, and basically it was a bit of a visual mess and a bit of like a gameplay feedback mess in terms of players not really knowing why they were killed and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And there was actually one other one. I don't know if you want to talk about it or I can, but I think it actually was
Hey, Jonathan.
surprisingly.
They said they're
Metamorph was,
dropping
like,
the patch
quite
notes after this
annoying,
Q&A.
from a maintenance perspective.
Probably
Like there
like
was quite
within
a lot,
the hour after this
like every
ends.
time we added a monster, we had to do stuff relating to Metamorph.
They haven't said any
Also,
nerfs
the way
so
it was
far, no.
originally made was just like a bit annoying.
Just they
So
got
there
rid
was-
of
there was certainly some-
Metamorph, added Ultimatum,
Certainly,
and
there
then
were a lot
showed
of
the new
designers
league
who were
stuff.
happy to see it gone as well, with regard to just maintenance stuff as well. So,
And we're careful before we remove content, right?
Oh, sure.
Considered decision.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But it's like, there was certainly a lot of factors there.
One other thing about it, I guess the meta endgame thing where you put together 5 boss parts and do it in his lab, like there was that sad thing where because that area was a standalone area, it never got map mods. Like it felt like often the rewards and the difficulty were just underwhelming relative to doing them in the area. I mean, you're less likely to just get insta-killed in there at least. So in some ways it did it better in that it was more controlled and telegraphed, but in the other sense it was just too easy.
All right,
like,
bud.
the thing spawned and then just died.
I'll talk to you later. Thanks for hanging
3
out.
seconds often. The life wasn't high enough. There's no map
Let me know
mod
what you come up
damage,
with.
yeah. So it was just due for its removal, honestly.
Yeah, I certainly agree with a lot of issues that Metamorph had and experienced a lot of them myself, but I do think there was a good idea there. And like you said, with the boss parts going together, that actually felt like it worked a little bit more. But like you said, it wasn't quite there. So something to play with in the future, maybe.
Yeah, oh, for sure. The idea is, there is a sound idea there for sure that I'd like to see if we can play around with later and re-envision in some way, hopefully.
Yeah, you get the situation where in order to keep it, you kind of want to do all the work to rework it, and if you're doing all that work, you may as well just bring Ultimatum back.
No one's gonna argue with that.
So this does raise a question you haven't had to deal with before, where you've removed a mechanic now that has a premium tab that people have purchased. What is the plan for that?
So that tab, so due to Catalyst moving to Ultimatum and there being the inscribed ultimatums, that tab is just immediately converted to an ultimatum tab. So it'll
nice.
have the Catalyst will now
I
store
think that's the
there,
only one I
and
don't
your
have.
inscribed ultimatums will also. I think there's 60 slots for inscribed ultimatums in there as well. So you don't need to buy a new one; it'll automatically transfer over.
Perfect. Sounds great. All right. Let me just see if there's any other ultimatum questions. With Middle Morph out of the game, will there be another master hideout NPC to replace Tane?
Not currently, no.
All right. Can ultimatum be blocked on the Atlas passive tree so that it doesn't appear?
Yes, it can. The same node that blocked Metamorph has been changed to a new node that blocks ultimatum.
All right. Cool. We have a bunch of questions about transfigured gems. This is a big one, and chat also has a bunch of questions about it too, I can tell. So this new transfigured gem system's kind of a big deal. Is this replacing Labyrinth enchantments, alternate qualities, and threshold jewels entirely?
Short answer, yes. It is replacing it. Belt enchants are gone, boot enchants are gone, etc. Which I like in the sense
alternative
that
quality gems are being
very old
replaced?
designs. I mean, sure, the belt enchants came newer, but it does free up a lot of design space to use in the future. And with a lot of the changes to quality and what the gems are doing themselves, like the loss is ultimately inconsequential. So yeah, they're gone.
Alternative
deal with it.
Gems are gone.
All right. Are there multiple different transfigurations for each skill, or is there one for each? It seems like so many new gems, effectively.
So, I mean, we're still cranking them out. Like, we're not going to stop until there's a cutoff, effectively, and then we'll probably add them later if we still feel like we have to. But we're aiming for 1 per primary damaging skill minimum, but 2 maximum. So it's 1 to 2 per skill, but auras don't get them, heralds don't get them, utility stuff don't. We're really focusing on your main skills that you would primarily normally 6-link and whatnot. I mean, I know you can do higher link herald builds, but you know,
that limit of 2 maximum is just in the context of this particular expansion. If it's a popular system, we can make many in the future.
Yeah.
It allows us to so there's this thing where cleave is cleave, and you could change cleave to something. You could change cleave, but now you're ruining just the kind of simple thing it is at level 2. You get it at the game, you just want to cleave stuff. So overcomplicating that to try and make it more interesting and new is honestly not the right answer, and it's kind of a thing that's happened to a lot of skills. So now with this alternate gem system, we get to take those ideas that people have of how we can be transformative with something like cleave, and we get to just add that skill gem without having to compromise that early game experience. And that I think is very, very valuable. And it's, I mean, the possibilities are endless, as I guess I could say, right?
So how do you be transformative with something like cleave? I'm curious. How do you approach that?
Well, I don't know. I can either talk about what we've actually done or talk about what we could do.
Both.
I mean, something is you could. Well, actually, okay. Let's go with what we have done. I think what we've done with it, and there's some details here I might be wrong on, or something that might have changed, but we'll just get into it. I think right now you have to be using a sword and an axe, so 2 different weapons, which is interesting. I believe it also scales. I think it generates rage and scales AOE based on rage. So it's kind of pushing you to be a rage build. So it's worth noting, that might sound more niche, and that is the point. The alternate gems, the transfigured gems, are generally more niche. But the power opportunity is much higher as a resultant of that. So they will scale way better into endgame, and it will save us the problem of just having this extreme power curve of damage on cleave just to try and make it do an absurd amount of AoE again. So
are there any other cleave?
I think we've just got the one right now. We experimented with a few others. I think there's one with Impale, but I think we've gone with that on Double Strike now, and some stuff with Bleeding, but that's gone on something I did. So many. There's the hundreds of these things, and we've gone through so many hundreds of iterations that forgive my memory a little bit, but yeah, there's a lot going on there for sure.
How does this affect Val gems? Do these new versions have Val versions, or only the originals?
These new version, well, technically the way it is worked now is just you can have a Val alternate cleave, and that just grants Val cleave, but it doesn't it doesn't have the same mechanic, so it won't
Right.
have the rage thing. It like technically the Val skill is a separate ability, and so yes, it can be corrupted to grant that extra ability, but it doesn't have the same properties. No.
Gotcha. Yeah. So are they always going to be just strictly better? Because that's just that cleave version sounds better than regular cleave, or is it sometimes going to be they're just quite different?
It's strictly better if you embrace the niche. Yes.
Right.
If you are investing in rage and specking into and using the sword and axe, then yes, of course, it's better.
I mean, you can't exactly say that the one that has zombies falling from the sky is strictly better, right? It's just a totally
That's
different.
true.
It's just a totally different thing. So,
Yeah.
It looked pretty awesome.
It does depend on your definition of better, of course, but I'm talking about just like raw clear speed or raw, boss killing speed. Yes, from that measure, like especially with respect to the low level skills, that is often going to be the case if you embrace that build and that kind of more niche build. But yes, again, there are plenty that are like hard to compare. Like the Frostbomb is a good example. Like different. It's now a clearing skill as opposed to a more utility focused skill, not having the cooldown, for example. So a lot of them fill different roles, and so they can't really.
There's going to be a crazy amount of ridiculous builds this league.
I mean, it's definitely going to shift the meta a lot. Like just because there's going to be there's a lot of new stuff to try there. So
it's shifting it enough that if people were to ask me what I'm going to play, I actually genuinely have no idea. I honestly am. I don't know. I'll find out in the last day probably, but.
Is this something you might explore with utility skills or support gems, things like that as well in the future?
It's a big maybe.
Yep.
Support gems.
Haven't really thought about a support gem case. I mean,
the thing with support gems is you can just add more support gems and you don't need to worry about modifying the existing ones really. So
you may as well just add more.
Yeah.
Alternate heralds. It can be done in some cases. Yes, it can be. But we'll see whether or not it finds need for it. It's just in those cases, it's like it goes from giving buff A to buff B. Like doing it with an aura, like you'd have to do something very wildly different to make it really transformative. Otherwise, you're going from just giving a certain stat to giving another stat, and that's not really what it's about.
Yeah.
What does this mean for heist in terms of it losing one of its big rewards, but also like specific heists that were gem type heists and whatnot?
So the way, how that works now is that every single tile set just can. So the rewards are no longer bound to I should say the rewards from the display cases at the end.
Yeah.
At the end of the blueprints are no longer bound to the tile set of the base item type of the blueprint. So so you can get kind of any of the rewards. You can get replicas from any of them. You can get alternate base types from any of them, or experimented base types, and you can get now currency. One thing we did do is buff the currency. We did certainly obviously acknowledge losing the gems, remove some of the
kind
value
of
from
blueprint
running
doesn't
heist.
matter anymore.
Quite a lot of it. So we buffed the currency just to make it better. So when you do get to the end, you have less like miss cases where you just get like 2 chance orbs. It's like that from completing a blueprint, that's just like completely insufficient. We have added new trying to make chase ones, but as it's pretty hard to reliably make chase uniques because the meta and the players kind of ultimately control what that is. But we've tried to add more powerful ones. We have rebalanced a number of replica uniques, and we've rebalanced a lot of experimented base types, including trying to emphasize that the jewelry, the amulets, and the rings have some very, very powerful alternatives. Honestly, they're probably the best amulet you can get now is an experimented base type amulet. But obviously, they're pretty hard to find. And you'd have to craft it, of course.
It's 5 new replica uniques, I believe.
Yes, I believe there's 5 new replica uniques. Yeah,
and 10 other uniques in this expansion, so 15 new uniques total.
Yeah,
I don't think we mentioned that in the.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So safe to say, heist will be something you'll be keeping a close eye on, then to make sure that the rewards are up to par now after this removal.
I hope so for sure. I mean, me personally, I'm just excited about those experimented base type amulets and rings. Like before, we had the -1 prefix, +1 suffix, and now you've got like -3 prefix, +3 suffix, and -3 suffix +3. The invert of that, and like it's like, what kind of ring can you make when you've got 6 prefixes. Is that better? Is that worse? Or like 6 suffixes? And then there's like ones that reduce the amount of prefixes but increase the potency of suffixes and stuff like that. And so
Stop hearing about this, Mark.
yeah,
I'm like, geez.
I get that facial expression as well whenever.
It's like, sure about this?
Yeah.
Jonathan and I have seen the code to handle this stuff, and we're both like, "Ooh, how does?"
No, it's just
hey, it's good.
Interesting.
Nice.
Cool.
I like when seeing devs learn about these things for the first time. So good.
There's always so much going on that it is nearly impossible for everyone to know everything.
For sure. Yeah. That makes sense. So people are obviously pretty excited about the transfigured gems. They do look quite exciting, and that's a lot of effectively new skills for us to play with. But it does kind of raise the question about one of the more controversial decisions with this change is that, well, the Labyrinth, it has fairly different gameplay than most of Path of Exile. It's got like a lot of environmental hazards and traps and puzzles and a labyrinthian layout. And naturally, that's not exactly super wildly popular content for people to run. Not everyone wants to play that. So can you tell me about the decision to make Transfigured Gems specifically a reward for Labyrinth, especially since it looks like something that you'll want to run a lot to get more of them?
Well, a few things to talk about here. I mean, the Labyrinth is, I understand. I understand how some people feel about it and people don't. But one thing is, it is core content that you do run through the campaign and you do to ascend. And we wanted it to be that the Transfigured Gem system is accessible there, as opposed to, like, say, where alternate qualities were in Heist, even though there was a kind of soft mandatory nature of having alternate qualities. It's like, well, it was the same problem. I don't want to run Heist, let's say, in a given league, or someone does and someone doesn't, and so you have to trade for them. And so for that case, it's the exact same thing, right? You can trade for these Transfigured Gems, of course. But we've done 2 things as well. So obviously when you get to the end of it, you put your gem in, you can pick from the one of 3 outcomes. It maintains its level and its quality as to what you put in. So the skill doesn't just become worse, at least in that regard. But sometimes there is an option that will transform it directly into its transfigured counterpart, which means if you don't want to, take the gamble and just keep trying to pick random ones, you can wait for that and convert your, say, Firestorm directly into a transfigured Firestorm. So that at least will make that a bit easier. But yeah, ultimately, I wanted it to be somewhere where it was introduced early enough, around level 30 is about right. So you're not waiting until end game before you can get these. Like, a player can experience these through the campaign, get a feel for them, get used to them, and level them up, instead of getting to end game and then completely changing their entire build. Like, it being early enough, and Labyrinth is around the point where that is like, a good place to commit to that. And also, you're already doing it for your Ascendancy, so it's a good way to introduce the mechanic to those players, as opposed to just kind of putting it somewhere a little bit random and a little bit hidden. So that's the primary motivation.
Path of Exile has a lot of content that is going to vary depending on player taste. Some people like Delve, some people don't. And that content has specific rewards. And those rewards are almost always tradable. And so in this case, if you want one of the gems, you can also trade for it if you don't like Labyrinth.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm interested in that idea of like players running into it as a course of their regular gameplay. Does that mean there's a pretty good likelihood then that each time you run like Normal Crawl and Merciless Labyrinth and whatnot for the first time, and say you only do them those times, that you're going to actually get a pretty relevant gem reward upgrade each run?
The option is always there. So one of the crafts on the bench is always to convert it to a transfigured gem. So it's not like that one's random. Yep. Whether or not you'll get the one you exactly want, obviously isn't reliable, but you will always get... so if you put in the common one that's put there is if you put in an int gem, you will get a transfigured int gem back. So at least it's likely if you put in a spell, you'll get a spell. And if you don't want to take it, you can just be like, no, I don't want it, and take your gem back, and then try again next time. So it doesn't like force you to. So you can put your primary skill in there, hoping for the best. And if you don't get it, you take it back, and then just keep playing your build. Or you run it again if you want, or you can wait till crawl and run it.
Just like the enchants.
And it is worth noting that, let's say it. I know this is a bit later in the game, but the Uber Labyrinth has 2 crafts by default instead of 1 now. So when you get to the end, you get a few more opportunities at doing it, and that's one tactic could be knowing that the easiest labyrinth is the shortest and easiest to get through, obviously being lower level and shorter. You can, at like a high level player, could just go and run that a number of times just to try and get the right transfigured gem. But obviously you won't get a lot of the good crafts and a lot of the good rewards that also come from it. But if that was your way to try and get your most appropriate transfigured gem the fastest, like that is a tactic you could do. So it's not really meant to be ultra taxing and time consuming to try and get the one you want. But again, as said, if you buy it.
That sounds like, from a reward perspective, that it's quite good for both lab runners and also people just doing it just the once as they go through. So I like the reward sounds of that. But are there any planned changes to running the labyrinth itself or making the labyrinth better in the future?
We went over that a lot. And as a simple, again, going back to like, we think of it like this: we could have done that, or we could have added ultimatum. It's a resourcing problem. Not to say those are the two options, but what I'm saying is that it is very what it needs is a lot of love, and we need the time to do it. So yes, we had a massive list of changes of things we wanted to do, and we just couldn't find the time to do it. So it is something I definitely would love to do later, for sure. Because
all right, next league, guys. Good, nice, cool. Sounds good.
I was about to joke confirmed, but that's a bit dangerous.
I said it for you.
Next week, so yeah.
Will we get to see all the gems before launch? The transfigured gems?
It is our intention to start posting them, yes. As we're still churning through them, I think our plan is to start posting, like we'll do a series of posts. I could be wrong. The community team can correct me at some point, but I think it's to do a series of posts, and as we then make more, we'll just do more posts and just keep adding them until the last very possible moment.
It's worth mentioning with this kind of content, because it's so parallel and because so many, like, every gem is optional because there are so many possibilities. We just start 200, and then the ones that are finished get released, and the other ones get released later or scrapped, and we don't know what the set is going to be currently, and we're just going to keep going till the last minute getting these in, and yeah, it should be interesting.
All right. For standard players, what's happening to existing old quality gems and lab enchant items and stuff like that? Are they sticking around?
I think the enchants remain. Old quality gems, I do believe all of this will be in the patch notes after this, so I might say some wrong stuff, but I do believe alt quality gems just get converted to regular quality, retaining the value.
But the quality, the quality that is now different because we've changed.
Oh yeah, well that's it's worth noting that the quality on every or almost every single gem, I think the word quality appears 314 times in the patch notes. I believe is what it is. There has been a substantial quality adjustment to all the skills. I know this is tangential from the question a little bit, but
I have no idea,
going
man.
with a more multiplicative approach.
I have to see the patch notes.
So
I have to see how much
of,
they got it
a
sanctum.
lot of gems being 20% increased damage or 10%
You know what you're gonna play?
attack speed. We're trying to really look at what is the skill doing. Like if it's something
If they
that is
didn't
about
butcher sanctum
duration, we instead add
into the
duration. But
ground,
instead of doing 20%
then
increased
I'll
duration,
probably
we're adding
play
like
Summer Reading
+1
Spirits.
or 2
because I can play
seconds,
that on a
like
witch and go to cast on Card Ice Spear.
kind of thing. So it's
But
meant
I
to
have
be
a feeling
more
they're going to nerf
multiplicative as
sanctum in the
opposed
ground. I'm
to
going to have to start from
increases,
scratch
because
and think of it.
there were skills where obviously the increase, the
Yeah,
more of
that's what I did last
the
league,
increase you
actually.
have on the passive tree, the worse the quality becomes.
As I
vice
started
versa.
Cold Dot Elementalist.
So yeah, but this is, I think, changed with a lot of the base skills as well, mind you. I think Discharge in particular is one where it's like it has increased area of effect per charge consumed, where that obviously could get it to a massive amount of increased area of effect, which means if you're playing that build, then investing into like a 10% increased area of effect node.
Oh yeah, he's got to go hard before he gets
ultimately
busy.
doing nothing. Like you're going from 200%.
I mean, this sounds like the league to do it.
210,
It sounds like
kind
this
of
is going to be
doesn't really matter.
ridiculous.
But now, so that's been changed to be multiplicative as well. So as we've gone through and done this qualities, we've tried to do that on a lot more gems to make the gem more like about its base stats, and the passive tree is multiplying that as opposed to adding with those stats, which does yield a fairly large amount more power for a lot of these skills.
That sounds like a quality change. I love it.
Going on 2 hours for this stream, Jesus.
We are just about, we've run over time, but just a couple more questions before we finish up today. So in the past, it was pretty typical for expansions to come packaged with some pretty substantial changes to skill balance. Obviously, we're getting like a ton of new skills. So that's obviously affecting like skill meta and whatnot. But the last few leagues haven't really had much in the way of skill balance. And we're finding like player expectations there. And is that something that you're continuing to like not do, or any thoughts about that?
Again, a lot of it comes down to honestly time, but for this one, I really wanted to do something that wasn't just playing that almost cat and mouse game of like upskill A and then next league upskill B to be comparable, and then maybe it goes too far, so then you upskill A again, and if you don't do that, it's just nerf central, right? So where we do that for some extreme cases where we bring them down, I wanted to do something that really wasn't just, let's up cleave by 10% and something else by 10, and again, noting I don't want to add mechanical complexity to a lot of skills, especially early, because it just makes them more convoluted and confusing. So this was a system that allowed us to not play that game, but yet add thousands and thousands or millions of possible permutations. And we're going to be less hesitant, given time resources, less hesitant to change the balance and change alternate gems or add new ones.
Yeah,
So
there's
it's
plenty of
given us
other
a system
strategies
that allows us to do
I
future
can
balance
do.
a lot.
I just really wanted to do Sanctum again. I
Without
like Sanctum.
compromising kind of that core game.
And like
that
you
new
said, you're
player
bad at it.
experience
I'm
all.
actually decent at it. Like, I
It's
got pretty
also
good
like,
at
I
it.
mean, the quality changes.
But if
are
they
a
do
pretty
nerfed in the ground,
substantial
I've come to
change
terms with
in
it.
skills. Like,
I'll be
that
sad,
is-
but
that is a
I
big
will
for
survive.
And a number of skills have changed. Like what we've done is simplified some base skills, because we have, and then what we've done is taken what they were doing. So an example of something we're trying to do, I don't actually know if we've done this because so maybe not. I know I probably shouldn't mention things like this, but for example, you get ethereal knives, and it's got all this talk about lingering blades going on. And yeah, most people who play the game in advance know what lingering blades are, but like a new player is not going to know that at all. So we've returned. So ideally,
honestly, if they'd only got a 30% nerf, I would be okay with that. But
and then we add an alternate gem that's really
I think it's
going
to be more extreme than that.
mechanic and benefit.
I think it's not only going to get a currency
and
nerf.
then we add
I think it's also.
how many
I
more
think there will
alternate
no
gems we want
longer
to.
be
So
room
it's
reveals
allowing us to restore
that are +2.
some
I
of
think
those,
it'll go down to
especially
+1.
lower level gems to their simplest forms,
and I
as
think
what they should be,
unique
and then
relics
also
will
give them a
either
rebalance. I think
a hell of a
often it's
lot
resulting in
rarer,
them being a little bit stronger early,
or
which is
they will
going
just
to change a little bit.
be absolute garbage
But
somehow.
I like the resultant.
But we'll be able to see it in like an hour,
with this
not even.
kind of almost unnecessary information early, and then you get this alternate gem that's really emphasizing that mechanic more. And
someone brought up a good point about Sanctum. They could add like other rewards into the pool, so like essences and shit into the rewards.
The feedback
which I kind of hope they don't do.
Balance changes based on
December
the
8th comes out next Friday,
metagame. If they feel they're playing the same kind of pool of
and it looks
for a number of
absolutely
leagues in a
insane.
row, then the transfigured
And that's
gems
not
start
just
to
me as a
fix
content
that,
creator
right?
trying to
Like,
hype it up.
every build is now affected.
I was
by there
nervous.
being
I was going to have to
versions
pretend to
of
be
the skill
excited,
available.
but this
For sure,
is
there will be
the next
it's gonna look
season looks
entirely different
absolutely
content.
nuts.
It's worth noting transfigured gems came from me sitting down with Mark and saying the players have an expectation for significant balance changes. The problem is we can't really.
It's
do
like
anything.
it's like a new area that gives you a whole new ascendancy tree, and one of the ascendancy trees lets you like get items to take ascendancy trees from other classes. There's like new potion slot items that you can turn on and off that give you basically like mage blood stats.
Great.
Like a poor man's mage blood because it's not going to be as strong, but it'll be pretty fucking
Last
good.
League, Chieftain
Just a ton of shit. They added ultimatum back
but it's
to the
reworked.
game, which is
Seemed to
like
have few
a ton of
fans in
people's
the end.
favorite
It's at around
league
2% pick
that
rate
I
for
didn't
most of the
play,
league
but
and
when I
stuff
saw the
before.
preview, I
Although
was
it did
like,
gain
oh
some
wow, that does look fun
fans
as
in
fuck.
hardcore, it seemed at least.
People are like, yeah, it's fucking
what sort
nuts.
of goals
It's
do you
awesome.
have like larger ascendancy
Just a ton of
changes like
stuff.
that, and do you feel like the Chieftain hit the mark?
2%'s
They added
not
100
bad, to be
or
honest.
200 new
It's
skill
still,
gems
10 times higher, 20
qualities
times higher than what it was.
that like changed the skill gems and
or
what they
maybe
do.
even infinitely
gonna be
higher because I think it was
ridiculous. We'll make it to
0.0%
Act 4, I
for a while.
believe.
Obviously rounding.
Act 3 halfway through.
So, but
you'll
honestly,
get 6
I would say it
waypoints
didn't
in.
quite hit the mark. But like, there's a fine line to tread when it comes to ascendancy balance. Like, 2% is
round it up. You'll
probably
hit Act 4.
less of a
You'll start
failure
Act 4 and you'll die in
than,
town
like,
somehow.
25%. Because if everyone's playing it, it's ridiculous. And or we
Just
go
trying
back
to get a
like Slayer
quest.
Cyclone era where there's 51% or something. I'm going off Pro Ninja numbers, obviously, so high level players. But like that's within a kind of like era realm of acceptability. But yes, I would say like in an ideal world, it would have been a little bit better than what it was. So, but geez, it's hard to get that perfectly right, like for sure.
If
But
you want to
yeah,
be cheap, you can just
obviously
get to
if
like
something does get
86
used
and
in
buy a
hardcore
5
and
way
sees
for
more
a
use there,
divine.
that is something we like to see, and that's
Or a
cool.
couple divine, 2 divines.
Whether or
and
not
just
it's
hit 90.
intentional or accidental, generally it's just the players discovering what's best. Like we don't plan around that kind of thing, but yeah.
Is it something you're going to continue working on then? Like not chieftain specifically, but also just in general, trying to get something right with those pre-existing ascendancies.
It'll every
Oh,
so
Daniel
often
Hardcore?
it's going to come up with
Never
a
mind.
rebalancing
The 5-way
given
thing
set
doesn't
of
work.
them, or maybe we do a like wide sweeping numerical
No, you got
changes,
a
or maybe we
hardcore
take
to
2
90,
and completely
right?
redesign them, or take 1 and redesign it. But again, it's all at the expense of something else, and we just have to weigh those
I know
decisions.
you had that
like,
Marauder or
again,
whatever you took
there's
really
no
high.
time to do that when you have 100 to 200
I think
between
you
there
got
of
like
transfigured gems to make.
I don't
it's the same
remember. I
people
think you
doing
hit
those
90
things, so we just have to make those choices as to what we want to do. And maybe there is a better metagame
Or a
thing we
Scion.
could be
I think
doing.
you took a
but
Scion real
eventually,
high.
we're going to circle back to them, and we're going to rebalance them or remake them. Yeah.
And you did add 3 new ascendancies in this
Yeah.
expansion.
Well, yeah. Technically, yes, there are 3 new ascendancies. Yes.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much for spending so much time with us for the Q&A today. We did run a bit over time. I appreciate that, and it was a pleasure to talk to you all. Thank you, Chris, Jonathan, and Mark.
Thank
Thanks
you
very much, Ziggy. It's appreciated.
Thanks.
Always
Thank
great
you.
to talk to you.
And I
Righty.
hope to see some epically crazy builds on release day.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
Hardwood.
I
Thanks very
can't
much
wait
for
to
watching,
see.
folks.
No, you didn't hit
All
90.
right, awesome.
Maybe it was like 87 or something. You were getting pretty up there though. I have none of the hardcore achievements. I haven't played hardcore. Shit, maybe that's what I should have done at the end of the season when I got kind of bored. Because I started playing like, I was thinking about doing Ruthless. I was like, I don't feel like doing that. I didn't even consider hardcore. When I play like events and I'm like just dicking around barely trying, like with certain builds, I don't die until like maps, so I could easily probably hit 60 or 70 in hardcore. Let's see some other people's reactions. Let's see Quinn's reaction to the patch. While we wait for the patch notes.
Said Jonathan Rogers.
Look out for the Primal Huntress's shop, even if you are not playing Forest with a foreboding dark.
Alright, let's be real.
Show you what's in store for POE 1.
Log in.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Something sinister.
Ooh.
Dude, I'm with you. That's why I couldn't play hardcore, because I will just zone in. I'm so used to softcore that if I die, it's not the end of the world. That sometimes I'll just start watching shit on the other monitor. Like, and just be like, oh, this is an interesting 3 seconds, and I'll die, and I'll be like, oh, that sucks.
It's like a live minigame? Oh shit. Whoa, what's that? Oh, that's where it's
Tread lightly in the wildwood, which shifts and fights. Accept our help, the ancient power of the Asmiri.
Yeah.
Beware the spirits that yearn for freedom.
What the fuck?
And the heart of evil that waits in the dark.
Was that a new ascendancy? What was that?
That was a new Ascendancy 3, actually.
Wildwood ascendancy, bro. New ascendancy? Oh shit, bro.
Ready yourself.
Ultimatum!
I will be waiting.
Logan! Yo, they better fix that fucking bug that makes you like PC and crash though. Bro, what? Wildwood ascendancy? A brand new ascendancy, even. I guess that's, they've got to put like 40 more in for POE 2 or something, right?
In the Affliction League, you will encounter sacred wisps, which beckon you to enter overgrown passageways that lead to the Viridian Wildwood.
Malignant tunnels, dude. Malignant tunnels.
A vile affliction has covered this forest with a foreboding darkness. You'll need to uncover the forest mysteries to put a stop to the source of the affliction. As you approach the darkness, the wisps burn away its affliction. Make sure you tread carefully, because they only have a limited amount of power.
I don't
But
see a
behold,
timer
the
or any
darkness
kind
is
of
full
power
cursed
gauge.
monsters
How do
that
you know
thirst
when
to
your
kill.
wisps run out?
Not very much visibility.
As you explore, you might see other types of wisps trapped inside the darkness.
Just charge you
The
barrel.
Wildwood is trying to guide you towards clues about its affliction. Follow the trails of wisps by collecting them, and you may uncover many different secrets. New characters to find, shrines, boss battles,
That
and all
cleaver
kinds
looks
of new
ridiculous.
encounters are lurking in the
Looking.
forest just waiting for you to discover them. There are many rewards to earn for those brave enough to seek them.
Oh shit. What is that?
When the sacred wisps run out of energy, they will return you back to where you came from. Any other types of wisps you have collected will return with you to Rayclast.
So it's like a currency. Oh shit, what the fuck is that animation, dude?
These wisps, having been saved from the affliction, disperse into the environment and inhabit randomly chosen monsters in the area,
It's kinda like
increasing
Sentinel.
their power and also their rewards.
That's kind of like Sentinel, bro.
The different types of wisps have different effects on monsters, and sometimes more than one type will
It's very
inhabit a
much
single
like
monster,
Sentinel.
making the fight even harder.
They're like,
and
we'll give
even
you
more
ultimatum
rewarding.
back, and we'll make the mechanic
If this
kind of have a
happens to
Sentinel feel.
boss, you could be in for a tough fight. But if you can overcome it, your efforts will not be in vain.
Fuck. Oh, that looks bugged, bro. Why
Primal
is he moving
Wisps
so
grant an
fast?
item rarity bonus to inhabited monsters. Wild Wisps grant an item quantity bonus, and Vivid Wisps cause them to drop currency items. If a monster gets all three types, they'll
Jesus
drop more items of a higher
Christ,
rarity
what the
and a
fuck?
lot of currency. While exploring the Wildwood, you might find some of the last few Asmeri wanderers who have managed to survive in the forest since it was cursed. Each of them have different survival specializations, and they are willing to teach you if you agree to help them defeat the source of the affliction, the King in the Mists.
Oh.
Choose which of the Asmeri that you will complete quests for to unlock one of 3
Filters.
new Ascendancy classes, which you can have in addition to your regular Ascendancy class.
That's cool.
Up to 8 points for these classes are unlocked as you complete more quests for the Asmeri you are training under. The Warden of Eves can teach you to become a Warden of the Magi, a powerful class that takes advantage of wilderness knowledge. A Warden of the Magi can learn to use tinctures which coat their weapon, granting various powerful effects.
What? A tincture.
You can equip tinctures in your flask slots and toggle them on and off at will. You can only have one enabled at a time, but the
Oh,
effects
you
are
can only
quite
have
conditional,
one.
so you may want to have more than
Oh,
one
I
equipped
didn't
and
catch that
swap
at first.
between them
You're not
during
gonna
combat.
have 2 equip, bro. Just
For example,
You're not gonna have to.
equip the Ironwood tincture to gain the benefit of always stunning enemies on full life.
that's shit. That's dog shit.
That's not dog shit.
Tinctures can also
That's
get random
amazing in
mods.
Sanctum.
This one in
the
particular
cl-
adds
good for
stacks of
mapping,
wither to targets
but-
on full life and steals frenzy charges on hit,
Okay.
which makes it great as an initiator. When you are fighting rare monsters or finishing off tough bosses, you will want to swap to the Oak Branch tincture, which grants Culling Strike, increased damage against enemies on low life, and has a chance to steal a mod from rare enemies you kill.
Okay.
You can buy more
Many-
tinctures from the Warden of Eves using Primal Wisps when you find her in the forest, so keep an eye out for her. As a Warden of the Magi gains more Ascendancy points, they gain access to more skills that let them further specialize in tinctures. For example, Nature's Concoction allows you to invest in having your tinctures enhance your flasks. This Ascendancy skill makes it important to think about which slots your tinctures are placed in, and what flasks they are adjacent to. You will have better uptime on those flasks and they'll be stronger as a result.
Okay, interesting.
But there are plenty more skills to choose even if you don't want to engage with tinctures. For example, another new ability to unlock is Barkskin.
Yo, from World of Warcraft, log in.
That is a
It's
World
a
of Warcraft
resurrection
move,
skill
isn't
that
it?
causes bark
Bark
to
skin.
go all over your body, increasing armor.
Hey MV, what's up, man? How you been?
I like
As you take
armor.
damage, the bark falls off, increasing your evasion.
That seems like
Over
ethical
time, the bark
defense.
will grow back, removing the evasion bonus but increasing your armor again.
That's an ethical defense.
The Breaker of Oaths can teach you to become a Warlock of the Mists, an Ascendancy class specializing in the darker arts of the Asmeri. One powerful ability you can choose is Blood Hunt, which grants an active skill called Ravenous.
Dude, the new league looks crazy. I'm so excited.
This skill lets you see what type a monster is under its life bar, whether it is a demon, beast, undead, construct,
Yeah, that new
or
tree,
humanoid.
the new Ascendancy you're going to be able to
Consuming a
use.
corpse with the skill
And the
gives
tree
a buff
looks
to damage
crazy.
against that type of
I
monster
can't wait to mess
and
around with
reduces
that.
damage taken by it. You can
And I
only
can't
have
wait to
one
try
type
Ultimate-
active at a
Ultimatum for the
time,
first time.
so it's a good idea to choose wisely. For
Because I didn't play Ultimatum League the first time.
Some bosses, like the Maven, are eldritch in nature and don't conform to the regular corpses that you have access to. But don't worry. The Breaker of Oaths has a shop where you can trade wild wisps for corpses that you can place on the ground wherever you are.
That sounds so
Buy an
jank.
eldritch corpse and you will be able to get the bonus while fighting eldritch entities like the Maven.
What? That's
You may
stupid.
notice that most of the corpses he sells are not monsters
It's like
you
you're
normally
targeting a
encounter.
boss, man. Oh my god.
You might want to try turning some of these corpses into specters, to take advantage of some of the unique abilities that these monsters have.
Oh my god, the minion cucks right now, dude. Gazy TV's like,
The Warlock of the Mists gets access to many other abilities. For example, there is a trio of curses that you can pick from.
No one's gonna use this tree. That's all about this third tree.
One of these curses targets your minions, giving them
this
life
third
regen
tree is
and
gonna be
making them
nuts.
explode for massive damage when they are near death.
that's gonna be abused.
Not that
One
they
of them
aren't cool
prevents
as hell.
enemies from dealing damage
You
for
did
the
it,
latter
just log-
portion of its duration, which is quite powerful against bosses. This curse creates the interesting build decision of whether or not you should increase curse duration or reduce it. The final curse is a mark that causes enemy phantasms to be spawned when you hit the marked enemy. These phantasms aren't on your side, so they work well with on-hit and on-kill trigger effects, for example.
What? That
The Primal Huntress can teach you to become a Wildwood Primalist.
This tree is gonna be nuts.
Unlike the other new ascendancies, the Primal Huntress
No,
lets you customize your
it's an ascendancy. This ascendancy is completely different than your normal ascendancies. You get two
You
ascendancies
do this with
basically.
charms that you can buy
The
from
mechanic
Primal
has its
Huntress
own
for
ascendancy
Vivid
that's
Wisps.
strong as fuck.
Charms have randomly generated mods, which give stats from regular ascendancy classes, allowing you to create your own hybrid ascendancy class.
That's pretty cool. What
Yeah.
the
Charms
fuck?
are
It's
magic
fucking
items that
dope.
are aligned with different attributes. So, for example,
Yeah,
this
Envy,
Ursuline
it's gonna be
charm is
strong as
strength
shit.
aligned and has
The
gotten
builds that come out of this
melee
league are
hits
gonna
have
be
a chance
nuts.
to fortify stat from the
That's
champion.
shit. That's shit.
I'm gonna
And
be
the
cast on
ability to
Crit Ice
stop your
Spear with
movement speed dying
Fortify.
below base from the
That's how
jungle.
that's going down.
This interline
cannot be
Corvine
slowed.
charm lets you get the stat that makes your consecrated ground effects
And you
linger
can stack
than the
them, so you
Inquisitor.
can put, say, this
And the
one
effect
with a
that makes
13%
cursed
chance to
enemies
explode.
from
You
the
can put that in
cultist.
all three for
Some of the
39% chance to
combination of mods that
explode.
you might find for sale on charms can be extremely powerful. So keep a lookout for the Primal Huntress's shop, even if you are not playing as a Primalist.
Damn.
As a Primalist, you
Plus
also
3 to
get
minimum
access to
power
a few other
charges.
interesting
You
abilities.
can have 3 power charges if you put that in all 3
Use
slots.
war cries next to corpses and they have a chance to drop an extra item.
They put in an item find thing,
It opens nearby chests too.
but I don't see... Oh, it looks like the
Primalist
cooldown's
also
about
gets
6
access to a
seconds.
small extra backpack, just in case you find yourself needing to cart more items to town during your map runs.
Bro, what the fuck? You got a rucksack? Oh,
If you are unhappy with the class you picked, or you just happen to find a really great item for another one of the classes, you are able to change which class you are using next time you find one of the Asmeri Wanderers. Just remember that you will
Free
have to do the
respec when you
quests
find
in
a
order to
Wanderer,
gain
that's
the
perfect.
ascendancy points for that class.
Okay.
These quests will lead you towards the ultimate goal of the Asmeri: finding the King in the Mists, defeating him, and cleansing the forest of its affliction once and for all.
I mean, I gotta play the new Ascendancy, don't I, chat?
There are new uniques to find, rewards to claim, and new ascendancy classes to master in the Affliction League.
It's an added ascendancy.
Now that we've
I
covered
got
Quinn
what's
not
in the
realized
league,
that yet?
let's talk
I'm
about some
playing
of the changes you can expect to the core game in 323.
Too
For a start,
balancing, bro.
Ultimatum is finally going core. When talking to players at ExileCon, it was the #1 feature that people requested. When playing through endgame maps, you may sometimes encounter the Trial Master, who offers you a choice to undertake a deadly Val trial
I can't fucking
in
wait.
exchange for great rewards.
It's gonna be the longest week of my life.
If you
Although I'm
defeat
gonna
the
have to
trial,
make a
he
bunch of
offers to go
videos
double or
tomorrow.
nothing with
Or
you.
this week.
Do you take the risk
Next
and go
week.
for an even better reward?
So I'll be
or do you
relatively
take the
busy,
winnings
but-
you have already earned off the table and go home? We've done a full rebalance of Ultimatum and have added many new mods and rewards,
I went out dog shit it is
including both new and reworked uniques.
now. What the fuck
The
is
base
this?
number of rounds for an Ultimatum trial is now always 10, with a chance to spawn the Trial Master boss fight on the 10th round, if you are able to make it that far. As part of 323, we have also removed Metamorph from the game. All the Catalyst rewards from
Yo,
Metamorph have now been moved to be rewards for Ultimatum. We have also added a new Val-themed Catalyst that works on corrupted items.
Metamorph is trash!
As is normal for most content
Metamorph!
that gets added to endgame, we have introduced new Ultimatum passive skills to the Atlas tree. One great example is the Keystone Grueling Gauntlet. It makes Ultimatums last 3 extra rounds, but you cannot choose the modifiers, and it prevents the
That's
final
a softcore.
Trial Master boss fight from spawning.
That is a softcore one.
The level of challenge becomes extreme during the last 3 rounds.
you don't
That's
make that.
Not
definitely a
being able to
softcore
choose the
one.
modifiers makes it even harder.
That is a little
I would not run that in
Rewards are
hardcore.
insane, and for those with very high-end characters, it might be a bet worth making. There are
That's
lots of
softcore.
other Atlas passive skills you can pick from for Ultimatum, so choose wisely.
Now, it's time to talk about one of the largest metagame changes we've ever made.
Oh,
There were 3 systems in Path of Exile
This
that were
is
all trying to
ridiculous.
subtly
This is a
modify the
huge
behavior
change.
of skills.
wait, they're deleting.
These were alternate quality gems, labyrinth helmet enchants,
Oh, shit.
and unique threshold jewels. We've combined all of these together to create a new system called allows us to fully achieve the goal of these 3 systems and then some.
Transfigured gems are alternative versions of existing skill gems that have different functionality and balance from their regular versions.
Oh shit, I didn't notice
We
that.
have added a huge number of these with
Spirit
interesting
gem now
variations
turns
that
melee into
drastically
ranged?
change how existing skills
That's
play.
ridiculous. That might be so
For
sick.
example, Frostbomb of Instability. It changes it from a cooldown skill that you can cast occasionally for a large explosion into a skill that you can cast continuously but deals less damage and doesn't apply cold exposure. It changes the role of Frostbomb from a utility skill into a main damaging skill. Another example is Detonate Dead of Scavenging. You can't use it on corpses that were created by Desecrate or Unearth, but in exchange it does a whole lot more damage. You won't be able to use it as your main reliable source of damage, but it's a great skill to use as a 4-link utility to get some extreme burst damage. Raise Zombie of Falling. Instead of raising a zombie from a corpse, you summon them from mid-air. They fall to their death, dealing AoE damage where they land. While this sounds like a physical damage version of Firestorm, you should consider that it scales with minion damage and also triggers on-death minion effects.
What?
Blight of Contagion. This version of Blight is now spread by Contagion, so you can use it as part of your Essence Drain build. We have a huge number of these. Transfigure Firestorm into Firestorm with Meteors, Transfigure Blade Trap into Blade Trap of Great Swords,
like a big
Transfigure
meta shakeup.
Barrage into Barrage of Volley Fire,
It's a
and
huge
so on.
meta shakeup.
There is a lot to experiment with, and we look forward to seeing what builds you can come up with.
No one's gonna play
But how do
Firestorm,
you
bro.
get Transfigured Gems? The Divine Font at the end of the Eternal Labyrinth has been changed to a gem crafting device that can modify your skill and support gems in a lot of new ways.
But wait,
One of the options you can now choose is to turn a skill gem into one of 3 Transfigured Gems. But that isn't all the Divine Font can do.
what?
It has a lot of other gem crafting options you can use.
What?
For example, you can add quality to gems, add experience to gems, sacrifice a gem for 1 or more treasure keys to open Azaro's chests,
Tell me they really like
and you
lab
can
as well.
even exchange support gems for exceptional support gems like Empower or Enlighten. These are just some of the options you'll find the Divine Font is now capable of.
Jesus Christ!
In order to
Yeah.
replace the rewards and heists that previously gave alternate
Empowered
quality
and
gems,
Enlightened
we have done a
gems are
rebalance
gonna
of the
tank
rewards
in
of heist
price.
as well.
So they added 5 new
Experimental base types
replicas
have
too.
been rebalanced. New replica uniques have been added and old ones changed, and we have increased the amount of currency from display cases as well. On top of this, we have gone through and buffed the quality stats on most damage dealing skills. In most cases, they will be significantly more powerful than before, and also more interesting. Overall, this is one of the largest
I don't know why
metagame
they're
shifts that we've ever
not.
done.
They're
There are so
buffing
many
Tornado
crazy new
Shot.
skill combinations to plan around, so we expect to see some really interesting
this
new
is
builds.
sick. I don't know about the bombing lab,
Next
but
up, I'd like to hand back over to Chris to talk about the new supporter packs.
Yeah, they said in the
At this
Q&A,
point, we
they said
usually
it
talk
might be
about
the
the League
strongest
supporter
amulet in the
packs.
game or something like
We're
that.
doing things a bit differently this year. Rather than releasing League supporter packs today and then our annual core packs 2 weeks later, we have combined it all together into a strong set of core supporter packs that will be released alongside Path of Exile Affliction.
Oh, for
next
sure.
week.
And I think they also said it's going to be really rare.
Each with its full value in points and a collection of exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. The higher packs contain physical merchandise. We'll unveil the full details of each of the packs at release next week. But in the meantime,
Jesus
here's a sneak peek of some of their exclusive cosmetic microtransactions. These packs will be available for purchase when Path of Exile Affliction launches on the 8th of December. Thank you so much for your ongoing support.
what the fuck is that?
We're just about to start.
Where
the
do I
Q&A
find the
once
patch
again.
notes again?
Afterwards, we'll post Path of Exile Affliction's full
I
patch
need to
notes.
see the patch notes.
With the release at the end of next week, our
Here they
community
are.
team will be posting crucial information you'll need for Affliction's release. Keep an eye on the news.
How long is this?
On release weekend, we expect to launch the new mystery box and
baby.
this season's
Oh,
Kyrix
yes,
Vault.
sir.
Holy fuck.
Thanks for joining us today and checking out our
Jesus
latest
Christ.
development. We're looking
Christ.
forward to exploring the variety.
Alright, boys, we're in for the long haul.
We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Oh, baby. Hold on. Give me a second. Donnie, gotta get up. Let me use the bathroom real quick. Alright. I don't see Sanctum as a main content. Alright, here we go. Affliction Challenge League. Challenge League is great. 2%. Alright, we already know all this. They explained all this. No Affliction Challenge. 4 new challenges. Blah, blah, blah. Ultimatum goes core. 4 new divination cards. Designed by winners. 2 designed by event winners. 4 drop pool. Ahuana's Bite. Yeah, the Toda. They did not add the gem. That doesn't look like. I think they said they weren't going to add that actually because there's no tattoos, so it'd be pointless. So yeah. 16 new unique items, 7 of these being new replica uniques. They said 5 in the stream. They were wrong. There's 7. 5 new experimental base types, 633 from the reliquary keys. Yep. Audio dialogue, continue to sound. Yep. And add to the core gameplay. See, I didn't play Ultimatum, so this is going to be kind of Spanish to me. For the 10th round. Oh, apparently that was a guaranteed thing on after the 10th round that you'd be teleported. No, it's not. So I guess that's kind of a nerf. We're balanced. Now at 4 tiers difficulty. Catalysts are now reward for Ultimatum to replace Fake Tuk-Tuk. Catalyst for Metamorphs, that makes sense. Into a new unique jewel instead of the Tower of Ordeals map. Oh, good, because nobody gave a shit about that map. Can no longer be opened in a map device. As in, it doesn't exist anymore, or do you open a different way? I guess I'd know more about how that works if I'd played it. You once again, Vendor 5 inscribe Ultimatum's rune inscribe. Kirak gets the ultimatum missions. Kirak can offer Eric takes an ultimatum encounter. Oh, really? They earn ritual rewards or for delirium rewards. That's interesting. I wonder why they would do that. I mean, I'm fine with it because I hated getting it in the ritual offers and shit anyways, so. Ultimatum awards, replace. Drop catalyst. Drop heist contracts instead. Ooh. Some people are pretty happy about that. Replace the catalyst with heist contracts. I'm just gonna skim through this. Chance to require you to stand in the stone circles. Yeah, I'll have to figure out the ultimatum stuff as I play it. And more changes. It's been removed. They took all the items, added it to the drop pool. Makes sense. Reduce the drop weight of forbidden tomes. I see where this is going. They're going to make the tomes more rare on top of the other nerfs. Reduce the drop weight of our divinity and the gilded chalice unique crowds. Wait, is that it? Is that it? That's all they did? I mean, it really is dependent on what extremes they did this. Hold on. That's it. That's all they did to Sanctum. Oh my fucking god. Thank you, God. We're back. We can do it again. Pending on as long as they didn't make it like a 10x nerf to the drop chance of Forbidden Tomes. That is not that big a deal. It is still hella profitable, even without unique relics. And they didn't even change the room reveal relics. I can't fucking believe that. That's all they did? That's... I don't even know. I can't believe that's all they did. They didn't change the reward chance. Maybe there's something that doesn't say Sanctum because this doesn't say Sanctum. We'll have to keep reading. Maybe there's something else. But you gotta imagine they'd put it in here. Fuck, I wish it gave us a number. I wish it gave us a number. Alright, sorry. The following map's been added, been removed. Oh good, Mesa's still here. Strand is still there. Beach? Okay, beach is gone. What do we got? Jungle Valley, that's not terrible. Overgrown. Crimson Township is back. So people have Township and Temple now to farm stuff, which is good. The Master can be found in the fields. Oh, 3 faces in the dark can be down on the port map, thank God. Criminals previously unlocked in maps that have been removed from the Atlas, now found within maps currency on the Atlas. Some of the Pantheon bosses changed. Alright, Transfigured Gems. Let me shut my door real quick. Alright, sorry. Transfigured Gems are alternate versions of existing skill gems, different functionally. In regular versions, many of these, some existing skill gems have had stats or interactions removed from the base gem and moved to the transfigured versions. Alright. The defined font. Yep, we know that. Alright, so it's just to the gems. So it's not actually experience to you. I forget who someone asked about that earlier and said they thought it said to the character, but looks like it's just to the gems. Looks like we're still using 5 ways to level quickly sometimes. Oh wow, so they made it a little harder to get to 20% quality on skill gems because the quality bonus is now stronger. So we'll have to see how strong they're talking. Anomalous, Divergent, Phantasmal gems have been removed from the game. Existing alternative gems now have the base quality effect found on the respective gem. Oh wow, they got rid of grading lenses. I guess that makes sense, because that was for alternative quality, so it'd be pointless. Tainted blessings can no longer be obtained. Really? I guess that makes sense too. I know it's terrible. And the hook. Alright. Nothing that stands out. But obviously it's stuff that gave you the gems that don't exist anymore, so no longer drop from your search chest at the end of Labyrinth. They can now drop from Labyrinth troves. Emperor's Vaults found throughout Merciless, and Eternal Labyrinths. Yeah, that makes sense. Not that anyone cared about Imperial Delirium Orbs anyways, other than to just reroll them, so what they do doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, so this is just talking about how they rebalanced Heist because there's no alternative quality, so they upped the currency rewards, the rewards from Chess and Grand Heist Jobs card. Required job level are still influenced by the blueprint area. Thief's Trinket slot is now unlocked when you first pick up the Thief's Trinket on that character. Oh, that's a great change. It was so annoying having to like buy the unique contract just to unlock the slot. Now you don't have to do that. Now you can just pick up a Thief's Trinket and it'll automatically unlock. That is a solid quality of life change. No longer it offers. Oh, that's good. No more low currency offers after Grand Heist. Increase the stack size of Grand Heist. That's good. Oh, that's cool. No more Anima Stone for the extra golem. You can get it on the Transfigured Skill Gems. That Reckoning Jewel no longer has minions. Ooh, this will be interesting. Skeletons added. So it doesn't... Summon skeletons can summon up to 15 skeleton mages. So it doesn't have that at all. Just adds chaos damage depending on the energy shield of your shield? I have no idea if that's going to be good or not. Many experimented base types and some replica uniques have had perceived changes. Skill gem changes. Alright. I'm just going to go through the big ones. Ancestral Protector and Cry. Cooldown recovery rate is now double. .4 mirrors to melee strike range. I don't know if that's so much better. I don't know if that's better. Some of these are debatable if they're better. Ooh, Animate Guardian. This sounds like a pretty big nerf. Yeah. I mean, you're really only using the minion, the Animate Guardian, for items that give you... auras. Like a Lear Mask or whatever. And the Dying Breath Staff. So I guess that's not a huge deal. But it has less life. Then again, you can put on a Belly of the Beast. Give them a Belly of the Beast, they get pretty cheap pretty quick. For just like a non-6 link or a non-linked one. So so it's a little bit of a nerf, but not insane. There's ways around it, basically. Animate Weapon gives maximum... That's a buff. That's a good buff. +2 maximum animated weapons. Arc. Never used Arc. Now has base critical strike chance 6%, previously 5. Yeah. I think that's kind of a nerf. Chance to shock if you're not running skitter bots or another way to shock was a great way to get shock. Arcane Cloak, don't really know. Armageddon Brand. Quality now causes skills deal plus 10% damage hits against brand enemies, 10% increased cast speed. An extra projectile that actually might be decent. Ball lightning. Higher radius set of damage. Bane. Quality now causes applied crits to have 20 to 30% increased effect. Alright, so it's a buff. Not a crazy one. Well, that might be a big buff. I'm not sure. More projectiles. Alright, that seems to be a trend so far. Give them an extra projectile instead of just increasing their, like, the damage of the damage that they do by their type. So I have a feeling we're going to see +1 projectile to a lot of these. Veil Mage's Cry, Bear Trap, Quality Number Doubts, 1 second of base duration, nobody cares. Berserk, Quality Number Times, 10% increased cooldown recovery rate. Instead of increased attack damage. So it helps uptime, but doesn't do increased attack damage. Seems more quality of life than it does for damage. Certainly would help in my armor stacker because when it's down, you feel slow as hell for a solid like 3 or 4 seconds. Blade Blast no longer detonates Blade Vortex Blades, 80% more effect. This is kind of confusing. More to radius instead of area of effect. I'm assuming that makes it longer, or that makes it a greater range. Doesn't matter. Blade Trap, Blade Vortex. No longer hit, increased hit rate for each blade. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that one. That might change a lot of stuff for people that play Blade Vortex though, because it changes the trigger rate cap, right? I imagine it would. But it might make it easier to build. Oh, and it does more scaling damage. So that's dope. Blade Fall, +1 volley. Okay, more projectiles. That seems to be the trend we're on. Same with Blast Rain. Blazing Salvo gets higher AoE. Blight. More base duration. Set of air effect, that's a buff. Blink Arrow, nobody cares. Body Swap Bone Offering. Increased effect offering, that's a buff, that's good. Oh, Bone Shatter. Per drama. Oh, that's a buff. That's a very big buff. Increased stun duration. More damage per trauma, yeah. I think that's a buff. Bring Recall, Burning Arrow. Damage with Ignite, Caustic Arrow. More radius, set of area effect, that's good. Chain Hook, Charge Dash, Cleave. Cobra Lash, don't care. Consecrated Path, don't care. Contagion, Convert. Creeping Frost. So yeah, this must be a general buff. 10% increased area effect must be quite a bit more less than 0.2 meters to radius. I forget what the conversion is to what a screen is or what a character is. But this must be a buff because they said everything pretty much got buffed in some way. Or most stuff. So I'm assuming 0.2 radius is better than 10% increased area of effect. I'm not 100% sure though, but it must be. Because they said they buffed most stuff. Cremation. Ooh, Cyclone. No longer as first hit deals 50% less damage, gain 1 stage. Lose 1 stage while not channeling. Uh-oh. Now has increased area effect per 1 meter additional. Melee strike. Oh, okay. So it gets its larger area from the main thing on the gem, and then the quality gives it move speed. Alright, that's a buff. I like it. you get the move speed, because they had to do that because I'm pretty sure you only got that from Divergent Cyclone, and they took out Divergent Cyclone, so there would have been no way to get the extra movement speed. So I think this is more covering for the alternative quality gems being gone. Which is good. Dark Pack, Decoy Totem, Detonate Dead. Oh, that's cool. 0 to 50% chance to detonate an additional corpse. That's dope. Devouring Totem, Divine Ire, Dominating Blow, Double Strike. Chance to deal double damage to bleeding enemies. Oh, wow. That is dope. 20% chance to deal double damage to a bleeding enemy. Bleed builds log in. That's cool. Earthquake, Earth Shatter, Elemental Hit, Elemental Weakness, increased duration instead of increased effect. I feel like that's a nerf. Oh, of elemental ailments. Oh, well, maybe that's. Maybe that's not. 1 second. I don't know. I guess this depends. I feel like there's math that I won't be able to do while thinking of it, of whether 10% increased effect of the curse is better than increased duration. But who knows? Increased cooldown recovery rate, that's good. Energy Blade. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. 5% increased maximum energy shield with Energy Blade. That's pretty dope. Essence Drain. Alright, makes it a little tankier. Give you some regen. Oh, wow. That's big. That's awesome. EK Ignite. Let's do it. We're doing it next league. 2 more projectiles instead of just more projectile speed. Make it even better at clearing. I mean, projectile speed is nice, but you can get it other ways. And it's not that big a deal. Explosive arrow. Maximum explosive arrows. Alright, some more arrows. So EA Ballista is going to be popular. Reduce flash charges used instead of effect. Who cares? Fire trap. Trap trigger area of effect. That's pretty dope. I like that change. Firestorm, Flame Blast, Swing Dash. Flame Wall. Oh, wow. That's going to help leveling. You can have 2 Flame Walls up at a time. That's going to be a lot of freaking... It's going to be a lot of DPS. Well, do you need 20% to hit that +1? Because then again, when you're leveling, it's not like you're getting 20 Gem Cutters prisms very easily, so maybe it's not that great. Definitely better, but I guess for leveling, it depends on the percentage you have to hit to get that. Ability. Alright, so just getting a 10% increase. That's a buff. Nice, that's a buff. 5% better chance to get a frenzy charge on it with the flicker. I don't know if I'll ever play a flicker strike build again, unless I find 3 mirrors and can take it to the next level. Because I'm so sick of getting to a point where it's really strong and then it will cost a freaking arm and a leg to take it to the next level, and I'm like, I can't afford any of this. I've never started Forbidden Right. I played it only once. I guess I'm not a good person to ask about Forbidden Right. Since I played it like 3 or 4 leagues ago. Generally with builds like that though, it's startable but not easily startable. It would be my best guess that it's one of those that people will say you can technically league start anything. It just depends on how fast you want to be able to do stuff and how easy it is. I think that'll probably be on the lower end of the spectrum of being hard. Because if I remember correctly, there's like a unique or two that's relatively important for that to work, but oh no, it's an awesome build. You should definitely do it, but I don't know if you can league start it easily. Sure you can do it, but yeah, I'd Google it. I'm sure someone has found a way to do it, but if they say like, well, you can do it, but and it's decently strong, that basically means it sucks early game. If they say it's not bad, that means it's bad, but for the sake of the video, they're saying it's not bad because they don't want to just scrap what they're about to say. Quality now causes, speaking of forbidden, right? Up to... Oh, this is dope. This is dope. This helps a ton for clearing +2 surrounding enemies. Yeah. You might, if it's not a good league starter, you might want to try this league anyways with this buff. That makes it so much better for clearing 2 extra surrounding enemies. So like it didn't get anything? Well, what was the other thing it did? So this is obviously a nerf. I forget did it do 2 things? Pulse what did it do with quality? I hate this wiki. Where's the newer one? There we go. Is this a typo? They're just like, it gets nothing from quality. I'm so confused. Did they mean to say now it gets this? Because that's just, it gets nothing from quality anymore? Or it gets the same thing, but it doesn't get it from levels? That's super confusing. I'm gonna stop thinking about that before I get a headache. Attack damage in it. Oh wow. Frenzy got a buff. Frost blades. More projectiles. +2 projectiles. Dope. So many things got a buff. Pretty much everything, like they said. 2 extra projectiles on Frostblade? That's pretty good. Frost Bomb, Frost Wall, Frost Legion, go, Jones Cry. Ooh. That's actually kind of a nerf. Increased cooldown recovery rate was nice. I guess it doesn't matter too much. Herald of Agony to maximum virulence. I don't know what virulence is. Well, that's from 5 years ago. Gotcha. So it's a poison thing. That's a buff then. Base burning damage is an additional 0% of overkill damage. Oh, that's a fucking nerf. Not cool. That's super not cool. That's a fucking nerf. Damn it. Why is it like only the things that cast on crit ice spear seems to be getting nerfs? Oh, and I see the ice stuff coming up. Extra projectile though? Or no, what did Anomalous Ice Spear do? It added Pierce, right? Yeah, it pierced. And I'm saying this before I look at it. If it adds an additional projectile, that's a buff for single target damage. If it just does one of these, increased cold damage, or even worse, does Phantasmal, I'm nervous. Anomalous Ice Spear was made mapping with it so much better. Alright, let's not jump the gun. Out of Thunder. Out of Purity. Increased cooldown rate. Alright, not crazy. Ice Spear. Quality now causes ice shards of ice in their second form to have critical strike multiplier. Okay. That's a buff. It does. This is. Alright. I will gladly take the Pierce away. I will gladly get rid of the Pierce for more crit strike multiplier. Set of projectile speed. Now it's even more of a boss killing monster. 40% crit multiplier. That's dope. It literally thrives off of crit multi. Alright, Mortal Call, Incinerate. No one's gonna use it anyway. Kinetic Blast. Well, kind of hurts 5 ways, but other than that, I think that's a buff. Extra explosion. Or they use Kinetic Bolt for 5 ways. I can't remember which kinetic move it is. Lightning Arrow causes hit up to 2 additional enemies near the target. That's better for clear. Nothing crazy here. Ooh, big penance brand. This is what Corp was talking about. He wanted changes to penance brand, I think. No longer cause an explosion when it expires. Detached from enemy. Once the explosion occurs, it no longer gains damage per radius energy. No deal station. Holy shit. I'm gonna have us ask Corp next time he's on what this changes. This is too in depth. I never used penance brand before. Yeah, I'm not sure. But just that? 177 to 265 at level 1? Previously 18 to 27? Yeah. Someone that's played it before and knows how this brand works better than me. That's a big, big change. I have no idea if it's good or not. It all depends on the attachment thing. Anyways, Pestilent Plague Bearer. Poison Concoction. Chance to inflict withered. Oh wow, that's a huge buff. You get a wither chance instead of just a little bit more area of effect. That's a huge buff. Power Siphon, don't know. Puncture. Damage with bleeding. Punishment, Purifying Flame, Pure Elements. Oh, nice. Even more ER instead of just increased area of effect. That's nice. Purity of Ice. Additional. Oh, nice. Alright, so just making these better and reducing the area of effect so it helps people that are aura botting and they're using them themselves. I'm down with that. I think that's a good change. Rain of Arrows, fire 0 to 4. It's a area of effect. So, better single target. Spectre Ray, Zombie, Rallying Cry, Reap. 2 more stages on Reap. Purple Head Charge. That's pretty good. Better for single target. Righteous Fire. Uh-oh. See what Pox has to say about this. No longer deals. Now deals 70% of your maximum life energy shield as base fire damage. So if you have 4,000 life, no energy shield. 2,800. Alright. Oh, but didn't the base life add to that? So 4,000 times... That might have been a nerf a little bit. I don't know. And it just gives radius instead of burning damage. We'll have to see what Pox has to say. Obviously, it means you can scale higher, making it better, like if you could invest in it. But that was never what people really did it as, unless you're like Pox. Of course. So I'm curious. This is dope. Chains, extra times. I'm with it, instead of just the increased damage. An extra wave. I don't know if that offsets the 20% physical damage. I'm assuming it does, though. I don't remember. I only played Seismic Trap once, and that was just to test something. So I'm not sure, but I assume this is a buff. Shattering Steel. Ooh. No longer consumes steel shards or grants steel ward, or has any of its steel ward stats. No longer has base duration 5 seconds. If you have no steel shards, only fires. So there's no steel charges anymore? Is that what they're saying? Or steel shards? I don't know, that's a weird one. Shield Crash, Shock Nova. It's a buff on Shockwave Totem, Shrapnel Ballista. Alright. Solid buff on Shrapnel Ballista, just more projectile speed, Siege Ballista. Attack speed instead of projectile damage, I'm not sure. More air damage instead of increased area of effect. I would say that's a buff. Snipe, Selling Solar, and Spark. The gem note also describes how many projectiles it fires instead of how many additional projectiles it fires. That's nice. And more projectiles instead of projectile speed. That's good. That's a buff. It's good for Spark. Spell Slinger. Yeah, not sure about that one. I guess if you have really good wand, your price scales better. That's probably a buff. Spirit Offering, Split Arrow, Splitting Steel, Stormbrand. That's probably without a doubt about a buff. Quality now causes a skill to send +1 beams to an enemy. The golems look like they got a buff. Yeah, looks like it does more for you instead of your minions on some of these. So I guess it gives people more incentive to use it even if you're not a minion build. I doubt people still will, but we'll see. Oh, wow. That's a fucking buff. That's good. They just get the damage bonus inherently. Quality now provides 30% chance to summon an extra minion. That's pretty good. Yeah, update Sada. What's up, man? It's going over patch notes. It's a little boring, but gotta get through them. Wait, what is this? Alright, this is just skill gem changes. I like that. That's a solid change. That might mean it's less likely that you have to use Unleash to summon more Raging Spirits. You probably still will, but it'll cost less cast to get your minions up to 20. Man, that kind of sucked to lose minion movement speed, though. That was kind of nice. Oh yeah, man. If you haven't seen the Affliction trailer, it's amazing. It looks it's so hype. They added a bunch of stuff. Ultimatums coming back. The new League mechanic adds an extra a descendancy tree that looks crazy. It's gonna be dope, man. Thunder Sweep to Tongue Slam to Tempest Shield. Better chance of shock, that's dope. That's a buff for sure. Tornado Shot. Yeah, that's what I figured. It's gonna give an extra projectile now. Makes sense. That's a buff. Toxic Rain. Base duration, yeah, that's semi-buffed. It's not crazy. Venom Gyre. Oh wow, that's a hella buff. 10 extra caught projectiles. That's nuts. You're gonna be able to keep max projectiles between every whirling blades. That's gonna be so sick. That is a huge quality of life and buff for clearing maps. Might have to run Venom Gyre this next league. At least once. Hell yeah, dude, check it out. You'll be hype. So we got Wave of Conviction. Oh, that's good. Penetrate instead of elemental damage. That's a buff. Ooh, Winter Orb gets maximum stages instead of increased attack speed. That's a buff. Withering Step. Two more Withering debuffs. That's a buff instead of the effects of Elusive. Veil skill gem changes. I don't care too much about these. I don't usually run too many Veil skills that aren't something like Discipline or something like that. So I'm not seeing anything crazy that I would feel comfortable putting my 2 cents in. Ooh, Veil Lightning Arrow. That's a buff. 2 more enemies. Better for clear. Radius instead of burning damage. Veil Smite. Yeah, so the same kind of thing that the normal gems got. The Veil gems got also. Ancestral Call. Oh, that's good. More increased gold damage. Well, yeah, more damage for less quality of life. We'll see how that plays out. No more fire damage on cold to fire support. That's a nerf. Cause you recover 0.2% life when support kills call an enemy. Alright. So you get life instead of doing more damage with Calling Strike. Yeah, I guess that's better, considering you rarely put Culling Strike on anything you're relying on doing damage. It's not like usually something you put in like a 6-link. It's something you put on a side move just to finish people up. So that's a buff. I like that. Fortify, Frigid Bond, High Pick Mine. Ice Bite. Increase damage per frenzy charge. Yeah. That's situational. We'll have to see how that one plays out per frenzy charge. So this is a nerf. So they hit a little bit harder. But they don't get the they don't stay up longer. Then again, with the SRS being able to, with quality, summon more people, you might be able to get them out quicker. So I guess we'll see. This actually might be better. Actually, it'll probably even out. Inspiration now causes supported skills that have reduced mana cost. Alright, so this has big implications for the Ice Spear cast on crit build. Because without the alternative quality, you don't get the extra reduced mana cost. Shit, which means you might not be able to run cast on crit Ice Spear without a Mage Blood. Because you're going to need that reduced mana cost. Or you'll have to get it on some of your jewels. Because I think you got 10% with Divergent. So this will be 5%. So I don't know if that 5% is going to like royally hurt. Yeah, we'll have to POB it and see before we jump into it next league. I usually jump into Cast on Crit Ice Spear after I have a Mage Blood anyways, but it was nice to be able to do it with a Divergent. Divergent Inspiration support. Yeah. We'll have to see. I don't want to doomsday it yet, but that is worrying. But I'm not going to panic yet. I mean, you can get reduced mana from jewels, so there's ways around it. It's not the end of the world. But it can kind of suck. Now there's no Divergent Inspiration. Life tap lasts longer. Okay. Meat Shield Mine. Minion life. Power charge. Ah, they nerfed it. I don't think it's gonna matter much. Spell totem, stun, swift assembly, swift brand, trip support, vial, support. That's it. I like this change. This is a dope change. I don't know why this was a thing anyways, instead of additional projectiles telling like, no, this is how many they fire. Radius in meters and gem description. Spell echo when awakened. Spell echo can no longer support blink skills. I don't know why when they did that anyways. Oh, that's cool. So now chance to explode involves totems. That seems kind of like a no-brainer, but that's dope. Oh, I didn't realize this wasn't working. Increase accuracy against marked enemies, unique to me. So now it just gives you flat accuracy. I mean, this sounds like a nerf, but if the original version wasn't working correctly, then it wasn't. There's a chance it was barely doing anything. So I guess technically this is a buff. And what this is that one tree on the very right mid center that gave to you stuff as the marked enemies. Yeah, grain of salt for sure. Oh yeah, there it is. Nerf ghost busting. 20 nearby enemies. Previously 50. When destructively keystone allocate, killing the map boss for a minute can cast. Hell yeah. Fucking perfect. I was so sick of saying this in the video. I was like, you have to wait for her to say, time to up the stakes, or it doesn't work. Now that's not a thing anymore. Thank you. I don't know why they couldn't change that mid-fucking league, but we take it. That's a W. I hated that shit. Because you'd forget you were doing it and you just run and kill the boss and go, oh yes, shit, I'm running destructive play. That was dumb. And I just completely wasted those extra bosses. What? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, dude, it's so easy to do, but did they just destroy Ashes of the Stars? It has no more reservation efficiency? Hold on. Did they seriously just completely destroy Ashes of the Stars? So which also destroys fucking Eater of Worlds. Because there's no point, because it's going to be worthless. Wow. Holy shit. That's huge. They couldn't have made it like 5 to 15% or something? Damn. Oh man. Heat Shiver now is on a gain. Yeah, we knew this was coming. Existing items can be made worse with Divine Orb. Yeah, they're just making a joke like, don't divine it. Or it's gonna suck. Wow, that's a huge nerf, yeah. We knew this was coming. We knew Heat Shiver was gonna get nerfed. Like, tremendously. Alright, so Repco Dragonfang gets nerfed, but it's not crazy. They didn't nerf the level of skills you get, so not terrible. Come Spirit and Eclipse now for regenerate 1 rage. Oh shit. Oh, that's a huge fucking nerf. Holy shit. Yeah, they are nerfing some shit in the ground. 300 life recovery instead of 100. That's a buff, even though I don't know much about the Annihilation's approach. You take less damage. I don't know much about Ephemeral's Edge. This sounds like a buff, though. Add lightning damage on the player's maximum energy shield instead of the minion's maximum energy shield. That sounds like a buff. I'm not sure how high you can scale minion's energy shield, though. Relic Catch patients no longer lose all that. Yeah. This got nerfed. This was a huge bug that people took advantage of. I'm not even going to read it. The Relic Catch boots thing doesn't work anymore. Replica Bones cause summon phantasms to have a 10% chance for fresher duration. That's cool. I don't know anyone that uses these, but it sounds cool. Refresh duration on summon raging spirits. Doesn't sound like a bad thing. I don't know anything about the Mist Wall. Perfect form body armor. What's versatile combatant do? Chance to block spell damage is equal to chance to block attack damage. Oh, that's pretty dope. That sounds pretty cool. Super defensive body armor. Replica Bitter Dream. Unique Scepter. Now cause socket jumps to be super weight element. Oh, wow. That's a big buff. That's cool. Level 15 elemental penetration instead of 11, instead of 1. That's a pretty big buff. Item balance. Oh, Jesus! They're coming in hot. Can no longer foresee the result of corruption at the altar of corruption. Oh my God! All the people that fucking saved up all these Enochor's locks for when they go standard, they were like, oh, but it can't foresee the one thing people really use them for. Oh my God. Crazy. The Maven releases all boss at once modifier. Once can roll on Maven's invitations. Cool. Foundry Bow. I'm not going to talk about any of these unless I see something crazy. Or that people use. Yeah, it looks like just a bunch of minor buffs to some items. I don't see anything super popular, anything crazy. Ruthless specific. Alright. So, a lot of things up in the air with how these are going to work. I'm interested to see people that are much more knowledgeable about this, what they think of it. The nerf to Ashes of the Stars is ridiculous. I don't think that was necessary. Hinocor's Lock not being able to see the Altar of Corruption thing was like the fucking point of it. They didn't destroy Sanctum. Judging by how rare the Forbidden Tomes are, hopefully they just made it like 30% less common, so that they go from 5 to 10 chaos to like 15 to 20. I'm perfectly fine with that. Yeah, shit. I'm skeptical about the change to alt gems when it comes to things like the 5% that you get from holy shit, why can't I think of the name of it? Starts with an I. Holy shit, someone help me out. Inspiration? Jesus. That you can't get from Diversion Inspiration. We'll see if the support percentage makes up for it, but I'm not sure. So a lot of stuff got buffed. I do like the critical strike multiplier on Ice Spear instead of the projectile speed. That'll make it even better. Anything else I remember? Nothing crazy. Obviously, getting rid of Metamorph was nice for me. I hated Metamorph. And I didn't play Ultimatum League, but it looks pretty fucking cool. And it definitely looks better in Metamorph, so I'm excited to try that. Yeah. I think that's basically going to be it. Been streaming for like 4 or 5 hours now. 3 or 4 hours. After everything, I'll probably do a video after I hear other people's opinions so I can have more of a thoughtful response to stuff. So I'll probably spend the rest of the night watching people's reactions to the patch notes and things become a little more clear. I'll probably go over these a couple more times. But yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. If you're watching the stream, I'm so hyped for the next league. It looks amazing. It looks like it's gonna be crazy. I can't wait. And yeah, watch out for the videos. We're back finally after a month or two of not being able to really make videos because I just didn't care to make videos about the same old crap. There's some new stuff to do, and I cannot wait. So yeah, guys, keep a watch out for that, and I will be streaming definitely the day of the new league, and I will be coming out with videos before then. So yeah, thanks guys. Hope everyone has a great night.